All sports, all the time.
There's heroes and there's legends. Heroes get remembered. Legends never die.
This is the Spoken Podcast.
Hold your ears, folks. It's showtime.
I'm your host, Lance Twidwell.
Man, that kid, he can ball, man. He can ball.
Touchdown, Kansas City!
Patrick freaking Mahomes, baby!
Let's talk some sports, because that's what we're here to do.
You are tuned in to The Spoken.
This is the Spoken Podcast. I'm your host, Lance Twidwell, here inside the Starcade Media Studios with my guys Trevor Twidwell.
Was good.
And Eddie Ortiz.
Yo.
Episode 202 in full swing, full motion. We are so happy to be here with you guys and for you to be here with us. Everything's in full stream, full motion as we do each and every week, whether you are live streaming, whether you are podcasting, or whether you are YouTubing, or a little bit of all the above. I know that we have busy lives, busy weeks, and sometimes you have to adjust on the fly. We just want to thank you so much for hanging out with us for another fun-filled episode at the Spoken Podcast, because we got, I would say, the best time of football ahead of us right now, and we are going to break down all of that. We have the NFL divisional round to discuss, to break down, to predict on. We have a lot of good information that we're going to give you guys. Probably some stuff you've heard before, because as we all know, there's a lot of stuff out there that talk throughout the week, and we do a once-a-week show, so obviously there's going to be things you hear about, but I think that we can bring a little unique taste and a little bit of a twist to some of these game predictions that we're going to have. I think we're going to disagree on a couple of these. I think Trevor and I might see some of these games differently. I know Eddie and I are going to see some of these games differently, and I cannot wait to get to those. Obviously, we're going to be getting to the Eddie Hour. I know Eddie's probably got a couple of questions in regards to whatever the sports landscapes out there providing outside of maybe even the NFL, or maybe even some questions that are outside of teams that are out in the playoffs, maybe a Lamar Jackson discussion, a little Tom Brady. Who knows? That's up to Eddie. I don't know anything that he's going to talk about tonight. That's all up to him. You got the Spoken After Dark at this point, guys, because as you know, this is a Saturday show. It's for the kids on Saturday mornings. Tonight, all the adults are together at the Spoken. It's After Dark. You turn on the candles, turn down the lights, open a bottle of wine. You're hanging out with these three studs. Get with it. Eddie was listening to some Selena Gomez before the show, so he's definitely in the mood. Hope y'all are in the mood. I know I have. I've been sucking down this coffee for the last 45 minutes, and I'm ready, and I'm jolted. I'm ready to go. We got Eddie Hour, like I said. We're going to be handing out some L's. We got a bunch of stuff for you guys, so I hope you're strapped in, ready to go. This is a little bit of a different show this week, obviously, because we don't have a game that the Chiefs played last week that we need to recap on. And I feel like the national media has done a good enough job for us to recap on the games that have already taken place. So we're going to do something that's a little bit different than what we normally do here, man. I'm not going to sit here and open up with an opening monologue and break down what I thought happened the week before, and I know Trevor and Eddie are probably very grateful for that. Instead, what I want to do is I want to get right into the thick of it. I want to get right into the NFL divisional round picks. And we're going to start right here on the NFC side of things. I want to talk about the Giants going to the Eagles. Now, we know these are two divisional foes that have been at it all season long. We know that both games went very differently, but both ended in the same result with the Eagles winning. We saw the first game, I think it was in early December, when the Eagles hosted, I believe that was the game they were in New York, if I'm not mistaken, and they whooped the shit out of the Giants. It was like 48-22. Just beat the crap out of them. And the Eagles were still just rolling. That was at the time when everybody was still very healthy. That second time around, it was very different for both teams, because we know that the Eagles already essentially had the one seed clinched up. They had to win that game, but they had it pretty much secured because the Giants weren't playing their starters. But Jalen Hurts was coming off of a shoulder injury. Lane Johnson was missing time. A lot of players on their defensive side were banged up as well, and it just became a game of – it just felt weird. I know the Giants pulled it out. I think it was like 22-16, whatever it was. It was a 6-point game. Giants weren't playing for anything because they couldn't move up or down in the seedings. They already had clinched a spot in the playoffs, but it was still uncomfortably close for the Eagles, a team, once again, that had to win the game and were also dealing with injuries. It was a very weird victory for them, and I know that a win is a win, but they probably didn't leave that game feeling nearly as good as they did from the first time they played just a few weeks before that. Now we're going into this matchup, and you look at these two teams, and they're coming into the playoffs they're coming into this matchup in a very different way. Eagles coming off rest, much needed rest. Of all the teams probably in the playoffs, they needed it probably more than anybody. Because Jalen Hurts, we don't even know how healthy he is to this point. He did not look good against the Bears when he got hurt in that game. He didn't look good against the Giants, like I said before. And we don't know exactly where he's at. Diana Rossini from ESPN said this morning on Get Up with Mike Greenberg that Jalen Hurts is feeling very tender in his throwing shoulder. So you know that the Giants are naturally going to go after that shoulder. They're going to do everything in their power. They're going to do everything in their power to make sure that shoulder stays not good. And I think that's what's going to happen. Are we still having technical difficulties with our camera? Forgive us, guys, if you haven't seen.
Ours is lagging a little bit.
Yeah, Trevor Netty's camera. We're going to get this figured out. This happened last week as well. If not, we're just going to burn the whole damn building down because we can't accept not seeing Eddie and Trevor's beautiful mugs on this show. But yeah, exactly. We got to make sure we keep that chrome dome going.
Yes.
We don't know what Jalen Hurts we're going to get in this game. We don't know if I don't even know if I think Lane Johnson's going to try to play, but they said it's a severe groin injury.
Yeah.
So I don't know if he's going to be able to play the whole game, maybe one drive, maybe one snap. And Lane Johnson is probably their most important offensive lineman. He's their best offensive lineman. And I just with a team with a defense from the Giants like ran by Wink Martindale, a guy who loves to blitz, you know that pressure's coming.
They're going to blitz him, for sure.
They're going to blitz the shit out of the Eagles, especially like they said, when knowing that Jalen Hurts' shoulder is going to be hurting the way it is, you know that Jalen's going to try to get out of the pocket and create plays. Well, Vegas is very confident that the Eagles are going to take care of business in this one. As it currently stands, they have the Eagles as a 7.5-point favorite. That's a lot for a game against a divisional foe for a third time. You know that whole thing they like to talk about. It's hard to beat an opponent 3 times. You know, divisional foes, all this other stuff, and they have the over/under at 48, which I think is insanely high. Because I don't think that either of these offenses are going to be able to do what the Eagles did earlier this season against this defense. Because the Giants' defense is playing significantly better than they just did even 3-4 weeks ago. And I know the Vikings game kind of gave us a little bit of a false narrative because kind of like how I think the Cowboys did against the Bucs.
Yeah, that Giants offense is not that
They're
good.
not that good. If you look at it, there's no coincidence that Daniel Jones' 2 greatest games of his career by far were against the Vikings both times this year.
Yeah,
and they just fired their DC in Minnesota. It's no mystery to me. I said it. That's why I picked the Giants comfortably in that game. The Giants just were the better team, even though the records didn't indicate that. The Vikings were frauds. And that's what we showed. I don't think that's going to go into this game. I get that the Eagles are clearly the better team, and I don't expect the Giants to have the same offensive prowess, if you will, in this game from the week previous against the Vikings. But I do expect this to be a close game. Because of the fact, like I said, we don't know what we're getting from the Eagles. And I think we're expecting more of the normalcy from the Giants, a team that kind of backed their way into the playoffs, a team that kind of scraped and clawed their way into the playoffs based on the coaching. Which, by the way, I think Brian Dable's the coach of the year. He coached a team that's lacking of talent in some key areas. And I like their coaching ability coming into this game. I think he's going to come into this game guns blazing, no fear, just trick plays, probably an onside kick, fake punt, because they have nothing to lose in this game. They're not expected to win this one. They're clearly not the better team. They're humongous underdogs, road underdogs. I think they're going to give the Eagles everything they got. Because of the fact that I think Jalen is going to be healthy enough, and because of the fact that I think A.J. Brown is going to be the difference maker in this matchup, because the Giants secondary doesn't have anybody that's going to lock him down, I think the Eagles are going to make just enough plays offensively to get this game done with. And here's the other thing. Is we all know the Eagles' strength is their run game. Jalen Hurts running, their Miles Sanders, Boston Scott, those guys getting the ground game going because that offensive line is very good at getting the ground game open and opportunities for them to utilize the play action. Well, if you look at it, the Giants' defense right now, as it currently stands, is 30th in the league in rushing yards. They give up they're 30th in yards per attempt. They give up over almost 5.5 yards per carry. So Miles Sanders, who by the way rushed for a career high 144 yards against the Giants in Week 14. I just don't see a way that the Giants' defense is going to be able to keep the Eagles off the field enough to get more scoring opportunities. I think they're going to limit the Giants' abilities to score. Daniel Jones already a limited thrower of the ball. I know he's played well over his last couple weeks, but if you look at the throws he's making, it's a lot of dump-off passes. That's actually something the Eagles are decent at, is the up-front pressures. I think that's going to play into their hand, but I do believe the Giants are going to give it their all, and it's going to be a lower-scoring game. I'm hammering the under on this. I don't think it's going to get anywhere near 48 points. points. I can see this game being one team getting 21 to 24 points and the other team being in the teens. I think that these teams know each other so well. I think the Giants are going to play with all their heart. I think the Eagles are still banged up, still trying to fight to get themselves back to something close to what they were for the majority of this season health-wise, and I think they're going to squeak out a victory at home, pull this one out, but it is not going to be close, or it's not going to be an easy one for them by any means. I think it's going to be far more like the one that they played in the second time around, and I think they pull out a victory, but I'm definitely giving the Giants the points here. I do not think they're going to get beat by more than 7.5. I'm giving Giants plus 7.5, but I do think the Giants the Eagles get a 3 to 4 point victory in this one.
Yeah, this is where I see the overachieving Giants. This is where it ends for them. It's been a great run. It's been a very impressive run, more than probably anyone, even Giants fans, thought that they would make it this far. It's been fun to watch. I gained a lot of respect for them as a whole, and then Daniel Jones' improvement this season. But I think this, my reason being, I am taking the under as well. I think this will be much more of a defensive game. Who can outrun who can get the running game going. But Philly's defense is top 3 in this league, man. They were pretty much all year. That's been a great defense all year. And I think they win for various reasons. I think they will run the ball well against the Giants. I think their defense will shut the Giants' offense down because they do not have a pass game. And they depend on the mobility of their quarterback and their running game, which the Eagles are very stout against the running game and mobile quarterbacks. They played Daniel Jones well both times.
Yeah.
He did not play good against them either time. Saquon was the reason the other one was close because Saquon absolutely went off. And a lot of that was passing game. This is just a game I actually do think the Eagles win easily in this one. I think they win by 7, but I think they're up by double digits at certain points of this game. And I would still take the under. I still would say they'd win like 20 to 14 or something, or 24 to 14 or something. It'd still be the under. But I do think they win comfortably in this one. I don't have too much to dive into this one. Honestly, I feel like this is just a bad matchup, and it's been a bad matchup for the Giants. I know one of the games was closer than they would have liked. But we've seen that they can absolutely blow them out and deep pants them. So I don't think you need a good Jalen Hurts to win this game, comfortably. I think that defense and the way that they run this ball and that offensive line, when it's clicking with or without Lane Johnson, that offensive line is still a great unit. Jason Kelce is one of the best run blocking centers in this league. They know how to push downfield and create great run blocks downfield for their guys. And Miles Sanders absolutely ate against them. And I think Jalen Hurts is healthy enough to have that mobility to keep plays alive if he needs to make plays downfield to A.J. Brown. I think A.J. Brown has a really good game in this game as well. I think he at least scores once. But I do think I see the Eagles trying to pace this game. I think it'll be longer, slower possessions, be more of a defensive game. But yeah, I do. The 48.5 was the over-under?
48, just 48 over-under, yeah.
I
think it's way too high.
I mean, it's not. It could definitely get there, but that would mean the Giants would have to be scoring points, and I think this is going to be a rough matchup for the Giants offense because they're not going to be able to run the ball like they want to. Jones ain't going to be able to make the throws and run as much as he was against that putrid Vikings defense. So, and it's in Philly, man. That if anybody knows, playing in Philly is rough. That's a tough place to go win. That's a raucous fan base there. So those fans are going to be ready, and those fans are going to be hungry for this game. They've been waiting just like we are, as Chiefs fans waiting for this game. So they're going to be ready and rowdy. And I can't say enough about the Giants, though, man. They've definitely exceeded my expectations, and I have nothing but respect for Daboll. And for all my Giants fans out there, man, the future is bright. Whether Daniel Jones is the guy or not, they probably will sign him to some kind of extension, I'm sure, and try to find someone to replace him in the meantime. But that defense is growing with Thibodeau as a leading, edge rusher. So there's a lot to look forward to, but I think this is where it stops for them. Definitely taking the under, but I do think the Eagles actually win comfortably in this one, though.
Where do I start? In sports, you always have the underdogs, the Cinderella story.
Ah, Jesus.
You always have the dark. You always have the dark horse. Without a healthy Jalen Hurts, I don't know if I can rely on that offense as much as you guys are. We saw Minshew and what he could do with that offense, which was nothing. He lost both his starts. They had to bring Hurts back. They did just enough to beat the Giants, but like I said, playoff football is completely different than regular season football. We obviously saw the Chargers against the Jaguars regular season. Jaguars blew them out. They completely destroyed the Chargers. Playoffs came, it was looking the other way, and the Jaguars were able to fight back. I think this is where the Giants can pull an upset. They have the team, they have the defense, they have the offense to do it. They have Saquon Barkley. If Daniel Jones plays like he did against the Vikings, I think that the Giants have a very a good chance to winning this game. I'm not gonna say they're gonna win by a lot. It's gonna be a really, really tough game. It's gonna be a super close, maybe a 1 to 3 point victory by the Giants. I am picking. I think it's gonna be one in the trenches. I think Lane Johnson, the
right tackle.
The right tackle.
He's questionable.
He's questionable, but that's a massive loss for the Eagles.
Yeah.
That's huge, and we've seen how much one tackle means to a team, especially to a quarterback who is hurt and obviously can't rely on getting hit too much because you don't want to risk the injury to even get even more aggravated. So it's going to be very interesting to see how the Giants and both the Eagles prepare for this game. But yeah, I think that the Giants, with the running game, with Daniel Jones, like I said, playing like he did against the Vikings, I think they can do just enough to where they can hold this Eagles offense with A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts, and they can pull up that upset victory. Could I see the Eagles blowing them fucking out? Yes, absolutely. But I do think Jalen Hurts being hurt and obviously losing your right tackle, it makes me question it a little bit more. It makes me, what's gonna happen. So, this is my only upset of the weekend. I'm gonna go ahead and say that. And I think the Giants are gonna win a very close game in like a 17-14, 17-15, 17-16 game.
Wow, because I mean,
it's gonna be a low scoring.
So you
game.
picked the Giants last week against the Vikings. You picked the Vikings with me, and now you guys are flip flopping.
Well, yeah, because and I was going to touch on that.
I
Because
think it's a way worse matchup for the Giants.
For me, it's all about matchups.
No,
like
I
the
get
Vikings just did not have a defense that. I mean, they make anybody look good, including Daniel Jones, and it looked easy for the.
I wasn't
for the
surprised
Giants.
the Giants won last
But
week.
the Eagles, like for me, it's just. Vegas has to know something because the Vikings were 2.5 3-point favorites against the Giants last week. That's a very moderate number, very, very conservative number for a 13-win team to have a 9-win to come to their house.
Maybe you'd say?
Wait, imagine the Eagles having the Giants last week, and let's say the Eagles were healthy. They're 10-point favorites in that game.
Yeah.
So
in Philly, for sure.
7.5, that tells me that they know something about Jalen Hurts, that he may not be as bad as he looks, or maybe they just don't think the matchup's good for the Eagles. Honestly, for the chaos aspect, for the NFC side of things, I kind of hope the Giants win this game. And for the first couple of days of the week, I was entertaining the thought. But then I look at the fact that if you look at teams like the Giants, they'll make surprise wins like that happen against teams like the Vikings that have tons of holes and problems like that. The Eagles don't really have those. Like there's not a lot of ways to expose the Eagles. If you look at 2 of their 3 losses this year, they had 8 total turnovers in both those games. And the other loss they had, their third one, like you said, was with their backup quarterback.
Eagles are not frauds, bro.
So
they're legit.
I'm not saying that there's no way it could happen. I would be interested to know how they would pull it off. Would they do it like the Commanders? Would they force 4 turnovers? Like to me, that's the only way it happens.
You're banking on that.
Or Jalen Hurts gets knocked out of the
They're
game.
gonna run the ball 40 times against the Giants.
Because I'll be honest with you. Let's say they knock Jalen Hurts out of this game. I don't know how much more of a quarterback advantage Daniel Jones is over Minshew.
Gardner was
I don't know.
315 yards a game.
I'm being serious. I think the Giants could have made the playoffs this year with Gardner Minshew as their quarterback. That's no offense to Daniel Jones. I'm giving praise to Gardner Minshew. I think he's one of the best back. I think he should be a starter in this league.
He might be a starter next year.
So I'm saying, like, if the Eagles were to lose Jalen Hurts, I still think they'd have a chance to win this game. So, like I said, Eddie, the only way I see it happening is if the Giants pick off Jalen Hurts in the opening for a pick six.
Or somehow Saquon
get that momentum on
erupts.
their side. Yeah, exactly. Saquon goes off for like
Saquon could definitely
213
do that.
yards.
Which they
Could
could do,
happen.
yeah.
It's going to be very tough for the Giants. And I'll be honest with you, if there was a coach to get it done, it's going to be Brian Dable.
I just think that was a massively deceiving performance offensively by the Giants last week against the Vikings. And it's not like that. Like, I picked the Vikings in that game because I just felt the star power of Justin Jefferson would have been a bit much for that secondary. He did jack shit. They had a perfect scheme against him. He only had like 3 catches for like 40-something yards. It was embarrassing. So the fact that he was out of the game, I knew that game was going to be good.
The Giants
they only won by 3 last time.
Giants are a very, very, very average offense, averaging under 22 a game offensively. Going on the road, that's a tough ask for a team like this that is, like I said, so stagnant in talent overall. Like you just look like if you did a pool right now of drafting between Eagles and Giants rosters. Like, the first, 9 players are coming off the Eagles roster. And then it's, Kayvon Thibodeau. Then it's Leonard Williams. And then it's, or Saquon Barkley would probably be in the top. I should say that. But outside of, Saquon and a couple Giants,
I don't mind the spread in this one.
Yeah.
I think 7.5. I would say 7, but 7.5 might be a little bit more than I would bet on. But I wouldn't. I might actually bet a 7. A -7 for the Eagles. I think they win. I think they win by a whole score. But yeah. I
like I said, if Daniel Jones plays like they play, he played against the Vikings with the run the ball, those run design plays for the quarterback, and Saquon Barkley obviously doing Saquon Barkley things. I think they can do just enough to where they can hold off that offense.
Yeah.
And obviously, because that second game that they played, that second half that the second half in that game was Week 18. The Eagles were struggling bad.
Yeah.
They were struggling bad, and you can tell that Jalen Hurts was hurting.
Yeah.
And that
was over 2 weeks ago, though, man.
Yeah, I know. They almost capitalized because the Giants were coming back. They lost by 6.
Yeah.
But you could tell the Giants were fighting back, and they had a little bit more time. I think they could have tied the game or even won. So.
I'm saying that's 2 weeks ago.
That is 2 weeks ago.
Recovery time for Jalen Hurts too.
That is 2 weeks ago, but at the same time, it's more football coming in healthier. I just see in my eyes I can see an upset in this game.
Oh, it absolutely could happen.
And then I want to stay on the NFC side of things because you want to talk about, and again, Eddie, maybe it's your turn to be right with the Giants, so I'll keep my mind open. One of us has been right about the Giants so far. Maybe you'll continue that trend. But going to the Cowboys visiting the 49ers. So I think because of the fact that the Cowboys put on such an incredible display, in particular Dak Prescott put on such an incredible display against the Buccaneers team, which let me go ahead and preface this because I'm not going to sit here and act brand new here. I'm the one that picked the Bucs in that game. And I will tell you specifically why, and I told you guys why at the end of that take I had last week, is because I thought that it was going to do the typical Brady bullshit where he gets some fluky calls that brings them down the field. It's a neck-and-neck game, and he gets one good drive, and they win by a field goal or a game-winning touchdown. It wasn't even a close game. I mean, Brett Maher misses 4 extra point field goals, and it didn't even matter. Like, that game was out of reach from, the second quarter. It was not even a game. It was boring as shit. But to the credit, Dak Prescott balled his ass off. I was not expecting that from Dak Prescott.
I think he threw 3 touchdowns with 3 different players.
Yeah, I think he had 5 total
Gallup,
touchdowns.
CeeDee Lamb, and
he was magnificent. He was magnificent. And I've never seen Dak play like that, especially at the playoff level.
Big moment.
Dude,
in
was
Tampa
unreal.
Bay. Yeah.
Having said that, we got to remember who he did it against. A team that was on their last toe. They weren't even on their last leg or their last foot. They were on their last pinky toe. That team was ready for the offseason. It's amazing they even made the playoffs to begin with.
They just fired 3 coaches.
Yeah, they made the playoffs on a technicality. They're a bad team. Yeah. So I'm not trying to say that Dak only did that because of who he played against. I'm saying that it is pretty coincidental. He has his one massively great postseason game the moment he faces a team with a losing record.
Despite the turnovers, Dak's been really good this year.
He's been very good this year.
That's one of the best offenses in the league.
That's the MO of Dak, is that he'll throw for 4,800 yards and 32 touchdowns and then lose in the first round. So it's just more of the same. Now, the Cowboys, I think, are getting a ton of credit this week, going on the road to San Francisco this time, which is on the other side of the country, on a short week, and they're only 4-point underdogs. That's some serious credit here, because on the flip side of things, for the 49ers, they're not only on an 11-game winning streak, they've not only found a pot of gold in Brock Purdy at quarterback, they have been beating the shit out of teams.
Yeah.
For instance, they have, in their 11-game winning streak, they've only been allowing 16 points per game on the defensive side of things. They lead the NFL in takeaways in that span, and they have 8 victories of 10-plus points. They've been dominating teams. They've been taking it out on people ever since the Chiefs beat the shit out of them in, what was that, week 8? Like, they've been beating the fuck out of people. They have been the best team in football since the Chiefs beat them. And maybe it's because the fact they have a 7th-round rookie quarterback and people are expecting him to have a bad game or not such a good game, because I think he has like 14 touchdowns since he took over.
He struggled against Seattle in that first half.
Sure.
Wasn't
then
a
he
good half,
bowled in the second half. And
he finds a way to win.
now teams are starting to get a little bit more film on him. This is a good pass rush that the Cowboys have.
Yeah.
There are things to consider. But, man, if we're being honest here, the worst matchup for the Cowboys in the entire playoff picture is the 49ers. Especially at home for the 49ers in their crib. And there's a stat that Chris Broussard brought up in First Things First this morning. The Cowboys' offense is predicated a lot on the run game. Dak Prescott is very much reliant on that, set up play actions, things of that nature, because that's what their offense is based. Yeah, that's what they're based upon.
Wasn't the case last week, but yeah.
But that was the point about the opponent they faced. Is I think that was a separate entity. I think that was an outlier. I don't think that's normally how the Cowboys go about
still
things.
A good defense, though. Gotta give them some respect.
Sure, I'm
That's still a
saying.
good defense.
I'm saying though that the fact is that game, I don't think can be replicated. I don't think they can do that. I don't think they can play that same style against this 49ers defense. I'm going to break down why. Because of the fact that the 49ers not only have the best linebacker core in the league, the best safety right now in the league at Tufanga, Fred Warner might be the best overall linebacker in the entire league as well. They have the best pass rush in the NFL as well. But also, guys, the Cowboys have not been running the ball well for over a month. So here's their last 5 games in yards per carry. 3.8, 3.7, 2.7, 2.4, 3.7.
And they won all those games, right?
No, they lost a lot.
No, they lost to the Jaguars.
They lost to Washington.
They lost to Washington.
Yeah, they lost to Washington. So they went 3-2 in those games, and in 3 of those games they gave up over 30 points.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, if you can't stop the run, which they have struggled against, and you can't run the ball consistently, it's going to be very hard for you to put. And the problem though is, if you look how Kyle Shanahan makes things so simple on his quarterbacks. You know, just stay out of the way, make a throw here and there, and we'll win the game. It's the polar opposite for the Cowboys.
It's annoying how simple he
makes it so
and
simple.
He can't be stopped.
He makes it so simple. Yeah. And on the opposite side, McCarthy puts so much on Dak Prescott. So now I'm guaranteeing you guys, the Cowboys will not run the ball well in this game, which means that Dak's going to have to try and replicate what he did, which means that he's going to throw multiple picks in this game.
San Fran's corners are suspect too, man.
But
Travaris Ward's been getting burnt all year.
Okay, my point though is how many games this season have the 49ers had their game decided by what their quarterbacks did or didn't do that?
And they get there by their pressure up front, and that it's consistent as anybody, better than anybody. So yeah.
And here's the thing: the Cowboys have a good offensive line. Zach Martin and those
CeeDee
guys
Lamb could be a problem for that secondary.
He could be, and I'm not sitting here saying Dak Prescott's going to shit the bed. I'm saying there's a much better chance in my eyes, based on what I know about Dak Prescott, a very good but never great quarterback. I think there's a much better chance that he's going to be not good in this game than to be what he was last week against the Bucs, because this is a significantly better team on a short week across the country. Guys, I'm picking the Niners, and I'm picking them very comfortably in this game. I think they're going to win this game by multiple scores. And again, it's because of the fact that I think they're going to get extra possessions. Brock Purdy, although is not clearly Dak's the better quarterback. Like, I saw some disrespectful shit on NFL Network this week of people saying that Brock Purdy has the better decision-making and all this other crazy shit. The dude's played 8 games.
4 or 5 games.
Dak Prescott is one of the 12 best quarterbacks in this league. It's not debatable. Stop that.
Yes.
But this is one of those special matchups where even when you have the better quarterback, it doesn't matter because of how great the 49ers are from top to bottom, and they have the better coach. Like, Mike McCarthy's a better coach than people give him credit for.
Sure.
But Kyle Shanahan is on his 3rd string quarterback, a guy who had 0 experience in this league, and they're 13-4. going into the divisional round, and they just whooped the shit out of their divisional opponent in the Seahawks just this last week. So I'm going to give the Niners the benefit of the doubt here. I want to be proven wrong in this. I'm going to say that the Niners are able to run the ball with precision. Brock Purdy's not going to be making big mistakes unless Micah Parsons wreaks havoc, but going past Trent Williams is really hard for me to imagine on a consistent basis. I think Dak Prescott's going to have too much on his shoulders, and I think he's going to throw a couple interceptions. It's going to give the Niners a couple extra possessions, probably more on their side of the field, and they're going to punch it in. Deebo Samuel is going to go on another tear. He was magnificent against the Seahawks. Christian McCaffrey might be the best running back in football right now. I think the Niners are just too much for the Cowboys. All respect to what the Cowboys have done this year. They overexceeded my expectations. I didn't have them in the playoffs. This is a 12-win team. Just won a big road game. Their first road game in 30 years in the playoffs. Congratulations. You guys had a much better season than I expected. It ends this weekend. Give me the Niners, -4. I think the over-under right now as it stands is 46. I'm taking the over. I think the Niners are going to score into the 30s, and I'm going to leave it there.
This last weekend was nothing but high-scoring games, close games, and we just talked about how we think the Giants-Eagles game is going to be a little more slow-tempo, defensive game, who can outrun who can have the most clock management, clock time. That's going to be a big factor in that game, and I feel similar in this game. This is, to me, is the most equal matchup in the playoffs so far. I think both these teams' strengths and weaknesses are very similar. The way they play football, the way their defense plays, they can get there with 4. And there's one guy you failed to mention in that breakdown there, which was great, but Micah Parsons is the best defensive player in the league.
I mentioned him. I was talking about Trent Williams.
Okay, well, I mean, Michael Parsons is one of those guys, man, that can absolutely just take over a game, similar to an Aaron Donald, similar to a prime J.J. Watt. You know, guys like that, T.J. Watt, and obviously the guy on the other side of this game, Bosa. Yeah. Nick Bosa is another guy that can absolutely rake. So that's my most interest. Like, my interest is the defense in this game.
Right.
Nick Bosa and that defense against the Cowboys, and that defense, Parsons and that defense. Who's going to outdo who on this defensive line? Which star on the defensive line for each team is going to make the play to decide this game? And I think that's what it's going to come down to for me. I think this actually, I would actually take the under in this one as well. I'm having a hard time. And I know I've gained nothing but Brock Purdy praise and respect to this kid. I think he's got sauce. I think that kid's even better than we've been actually giving him praise for. I think he's got a lot of potential to be really good. He's got a really quiet confidence.
He just has to prove it. He just has to prove it.
I mean, he's made some throws though that are like, okay, like that's not just like a rookie throw. Like, he's made some back shoulder throws in the end zone, fading away, falling backwards, like some almost Aaron Rodgers kind of touch throws. I'm just like, okay, like he's good. Yeah. I think he's really good. So I'm treating this as a legitimate matchup, quarterback to quarterback, defense to defense. And both of these teams got offensive weapons that can explode. Pollard is a guy that can explode at any moment. Debo is a guy that can explode at any moment. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey can break a game wide open as well. Ayuk is a guy that doesn't get talked about enough. And obviously, George Kittle is a guy that can just go absolutely wreak havoc against the safeties of the Cowboys, who I think are a little lackluster. So he can definitely feast. This game, it's tempting to take the over because of all the offensive talent. But I feel this is going to come down to the defenses, and this is going to come down to Nick Bosa. This is going to come down to Micah Parsons. Who's going to make that play? Who's going to get after the quarterback? As far as like the amount of times, the amount of pressures. Is there going to be a strip sack? So this one, man. As far as like matchup goes, this one to me is like the most evenly matched matchup in the entire playoffs so far.
Do you think Dak can replicate what he did last week?
No.
Okay.
He's not going to do that against San Fran.
That's the only way I think this is going to be even.
Well, that's why I'm picking the under. Yeah. Because he's not going to go off like that. But I do think Dak could have a solid game because, Geno played fairly well against them this past week, and we've seen points get put up against them. We saw Jarrett Stidham go out there and drop 30-plus on them.
I think that was mostly because they didn't have film on them.
I'm just saying, and the Cowboys are far superior than the Raiders, right? So I know that they don't have a Devontae Adams, but they do have CeeDee Lamb, who's coming. He's a budding star in this league. And Dalton Schultz, a guy that just scored 2 touchdowns last week, obviously against a far less superior defense, or more of an inferior defense, obviously. But I do like the head-to-head matchup. Almost at every position, there is a counter to every position of the opposition. So every matchup, every position has a guy on the other side that is almost equally as good. And I love that about this matchup. So I like San Fran. I'm picking them win by 1 point.
Oh.
I do not think either one of these teams will win comfortably. If somebody wins, it's not going to be comfortable at all. I think this is one of those games where I gained some respect for the Cowboys last week, and I think they've been one of the most consistently good teams this year, offensively and defensively. Even when Dak was out, that defense was still elite. That defense was still making plays. They had a couple lull spots. Micah Parsons is kind of a guy that's always banged up, but a guy who's always going to play through it, and he just gets after quarterbacks like nobody else, really, outside of maybe T.J. Watt and Nick Bosa, those two guys. So it's really going to come down to the defense. Which defense makes the play? And I think that's what it comes down to. But I am picking the Niners to win by 1. And the fact that they're at home is a big deal for sure.
We do have a couple comments on here, and I wanted to get to them. I just saw them right now on our live chat. And by the way, if you guys have any questions or you guys want to make a statement, hit us up on our YouTube channel. I'm sure Eddie will see them on there. But I did see this one from our guy, Adam Marshall. He asked the question, do you think McCarthy's job is safe even if Dallas loses this game? Real quick before we get to Eddie's takes, I really want to get to you, Eddie. I'm just going to answer this directly. I don't think it matters what happens in this game. Mike McCarthy is not getting fired in Dallas, and here's the biggest reason why. One, I do think that Mike McCarthy is a better coach than people give him credit, and that includes myself. I think that we can be a little overly critical on Mike McCarthy because I do think he has underachieved in his career. When you have Aaron Rodgers in his prime, you have Aaron Rodgers from 2006 to what was it? 2018 that Mike McCarthy finally got fired in Green Bay. You only have one Super Bowl to show. I think that's a problem. You should be able to access that better, especially when you're above 600 win percentage head coach. And then you get Dak Prescott in his prime with a good roster. Granted, you have Jerry Jones looming over your shoulders. But I think that also takes a lot of pressure off Mike McCarthy being a head coach in Dallas because you're not the one that has to answer all the hard questions. Jerry Jones literally lines up for those. And they're the perfect marriage because Jerry doesn't want an alpha as his coach. He didn't want Jimmy Johnson after they started winning. He got rid of him. He wanted Barry Switzer, a yes man. Yep. He wanted Jason Garrett, a yes man. And Mike McCarthy is a yes man. Good coach, but he's a yes man. So I don't think it's going to matter. I do think, obviously, Jerry's going to be a little bit more, the seat's going to warm up a little bit, but it's not going to be hot by any means. He's the perfect coach for Jerry Jones. Good coach and get you in the playoffs, and he doesn't say no. So to answer the question, I don't think it matters. I think McCarthy's safe no matter what.
Yeah, he stuck with Jason Garrett for 8 years.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, McCarthy's fine.
Yeah, and McCarthy's a significantly better coach than Jason Garrett.
He's not clapping when the team gets turnovers.
Yeah.
I'll never forget that guy, man.
I was gonna ask those questions in the Eddie hour, but
oh shit! I'm sorry, man. I apologize. I was just looking at the chats. My bad. Adam, your question was answered a little prematurely. I apologize.
I guess not since you're reading comments. We got one from Shaggy.
Yeah.
He says, "I predicted the Chiefs Cowboys in the Super Bowl in Arizona. Remember? ? And then he proceeds. I predicted it with you last spring on the Big Mahomes show, just in case you forgot.
No, I didn't forget. I think that's.
Well, you're gonna be wrong, Shaq. No.
Look, I think it was a good prediction. I don't believe it's gonna come to pass. I don't think the Cowboys are the better team in this matchup. I think that because of the fact the NFC is so damn limited, especially at quarterback.
Well, if the Cowboys do win, because there obviously is a way and an avenue that the Cowboys win this game. How would you see the Cowboys?
It would really depend on who wins that
how would
Eagles-Giants game. If the Giants were to pull out that game against the Eagles, I'd pick the Cowboys very comfortably. But if that ends up being in Philly and the Cowboys have to go to Philly with the revenge factor and Jalen Hurts didn't play the last game against each other, I would pick Philly. I would pick Philly.
See, for me, I think for the way the Cowboys, in order for this game would have to go. This game would have to become an offensive game for the Cowboys to have a chance in my mind. If this game comes down to a defensive game, this is why I'm picking the Niners, because they have the better defense, obviously, and they have more playmakers all the way around. Granted, both these defensive lines are pretty equal, but the safeties and the linebackers of the Niners is what changes my mind the most. So I think if this game becomes a defensive game, which I expect, if it becomes a shootout, though, I think the Cowboys definitely have a chance because the Dallas Cowboys offense is pretty electric at times. So we just saw that last week, but yeah.
I mean, if it becomes a shootout, like, can we trust Brock Purdy? Can we really rely on him? I mean, I know he's played really good, but can we really rely on him on a playoff game, on a lose go home kind of situation in front of your crowd?
Micah Parsons breathing down your neck.
Exactly. Yep. So if it comes, I don't think the 49ers want or can afford to go throw for throw with the Cowboys. I don't think that's something they want to do because I think they could very well lose that if they go toe to toe with Dallas in a kind of passing situation. Because I think I'll give Dak Prescott the nod on that between him and Brock Purdy.
Let me just say this real quick. You asked the question, do you think I could trust Brock Purdy in that situation? Just last week, the Seahawks took a 17 to 16 point lead into the half. After that, Brock Purdy outscored the Seahawks 25 to 6. So I'm just saying, based on what we know of him, yeah, I do think that he has gotten enough.
Lesser defense, but yeah.
Okay, but he threw 2 touchdowns in that second half.
Yeah.
And he played very well. I agree with you. But Seahawks know the Seahawks know the Niners better than the Cowboys do.
Yeah.
They played them 3 times. You know what I'm saying?
That's why it was closer.
Yeah.
Right. So what I'm saying is that Brock Purdy withstood a game like that in his first playoff game against a divisional foe.
He's good, man. He's good.
And he put the ball on the money in many different you remember all those broke plays? It isn't like because like we talk about Kyle Shanahan makes it so easy for these guys. Yeah. If you go watch the highlights on that game again, there were numerous broken plays, off schedule plays that he was creating with his feet, extending plays.
2 touchdowns were off script.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I'm just saying, like, it isn't like it's just the system.
He should have had another one. Ayuk dropped it. Remember?
I know
it was back of the end zone.
It was very comparable to what Patrick Mahomes did against ironically the Niners in 2018.
Yeah.
It's very, very identical to what he did. Anyway, I apologize. I keep going.
No, but I'm picking the Niners in this game. Just a better defense, the more talented roster. Christian McCaffrey in its own. He's definitely better than Zeke and Pollard were this season. Even though Christian McCaffrey missed a few games due to injury, I still take
a question.
Yeah, I still take Christian McCaffrey.
It's not even a question.
Obviously, the defensive line, it's insane.
Yeah.
Nick Bosa just being who he is, just existing in that offensive line is phenomenal. I do think he's a defensive player of the year. So it's very hard for me to see Dak Prescott have kind of that game that he had last week, kind of recreated against the best defensive football in my opinion. I don't know what rank they finished, but I know in my opinion they're the best.
I think they were the number 1 defense. Yeah.
I think they're the secondary is great. The linebacker core, just everything about that defense is great.
Yeah.
This reminds me. This takes me back to 2019, the 2019 season. That defense was fantastic
for sure.
And I think this defense is just as great, if not better, in my opinion. So I just don't see how Dak can survive that kind of defense. We've seen him struggle against really good teams or really good defenses, and him pickpocketing out of some bad defense and. I guess you can go and say it was like, well, the Bucs defense. I mean, Bucs to 49ers is a big gap in my opinion.
Yeah,
big gap. But yeah, like I said, if it goes toe to toe to a shootout with the Cowboys, I do think that the Cowboys can take a lead on that. I'll give the nod to the Cowboys on that. I don't think that the 49ers can afford to do that. So I think that what the 49ers have to do is kind of eat the clock, do run games, and have Brock Purdy extend the drives. I think that's going to be a way for them to eat the clock away and just put away the Cowboys. I do think they could win by a touchdown, by a score here. So yeah, I'll go with the 49ers.
All right, so we all agree on the 49ers.
Yep.
Before I go any further in the playoffs, I want to say it is really cool. Like if you look at the teams that are outside of the Jaguars, obviously because they got in the league in the 96. 95 or 96 is their first season as a franchise. By the way, Patrick Mahomes has more playoff wins than the Jaguars do. But no, I like the fact that the majority of the teams in the playoffs are like all throwback teams. Like teams that back in like the 80s and 90s were having success. Not the Chiefs, but in the 90s the Chiefs were a perennial playoff team. The Bills were in the Super Bowl all the time. The Bengals went to multiple Super Bowl appearances. Obviously the 49ers and the Cowboys reigned supreme. Like they were just... I think it's just cool that like those teams are the ones that are like back. Because you remember we were growing up as like the Patriots and the Colts and the Ravens. Like those teams were kind of running the AFC,
Packers.
The Broncos, Packers. Thank you. Like those were the teams that were in the playoffs all the time, making things happen. Now it's these teams again. I think it's pretty cool that like the '90s teams are back. But let's get to the AFC side, which is I know where it really matters to us. And I got some really good breakdowns on these guys. So go with me on this because I think this is where we're going to definitely start to disagree a little bit. I don't want to put words in your mouths, but I feel very confident in these next 2 picks, and I'm going to stay by them, and I'm going to explain why. We have the Bills hosting the Bengals. Let me first of all say, that I think it is insanely unfair that the Bills get to host this game. Biggest reason why is the most obvious reason why. The Bengals, and you guys know how I feel. Damar Hamlin, I know that was of the utmost importance. I'm so glad he's okay, and he's more than likely going to be out there in Buffalo this weekend, and it's going to be awesome to see. It's going to be emotional, and I'm so happy the kid's good. Very, very happy that he's okay. Could have been far worse. With that said, the Bengals got absolutely screwed. We've already talked about this, but it goes further than what we knew originally. So they made it into a coin toss for the Bengals to get or to get the division, basically, or to have a home game if the Ravens would have beat them. And then they took the game and canceled it that was in Cincinnati, but still allowed the Bills to host a playoff game against the Bengals in this game. This, if you want to talk about a neutral site game, they shouldn't have worried about the AFC Championship. It should have been this game. That if the Bengals and Bills played each other again because their game was canceled, to help keep things fair, because as I was told, if the Chiefs and Bills play each other in the AFC Championship, we have to keep things fair, so let's go to a neutral site and let's change the rules on a fly. But if we're going to do that, the two teams that were directly impacted by this game should have been the ones playing on a neutral site, not giving the Bills a home game in their playoff matchup. So let me just put that out there first and foremost. The Bengals absolutely screwed in that. Now let's get into this matchup. So the Bengals are coming into this game somehow, some way, as 5.5-point underdogs. 5.5-point underdogs.
Vegas knows something.
In Buffalo. The over-under is 49, which I really like that number because I think that is a perfect number for this game. We'll talk about that in a minute. And it's funny because I'm hearing people say, well, it's because of the way that Burrow played against the Ravens last week. Did you guys happen to catch the other game that happened last weekend when the Bills were facing a team that I think they were 13.5-point favorites over against a third-string rookie quarterback by the name of Skylar Thompson, and the game ended up as 34-31. The Dolphins had I think it was early fourth quarter lead in that one, and the only reason that happened was because Josh Allen decided to have 3 turnovers. I think, if I'm not mistaken, the Bills had a 17-0 lead in that game. Am I wrong? Am I right, Trevor?
In Buffalo, too.
Yeah, in Buffalo.
Yeah.
And yet that game at one point was, I think, 26-24 Dolphins. I think Skylar Thompson completed 47% of his passes, yet that was a field goal victory. So we're going to focus on Joe Burrow playing not bad, but not good against a top 3 defense in the league, and the Ravens had everything to play for in that game. But we're not going to sit here and focus on this. And here's what's funny. Joe Burrow versus the AFC North versus everybody else is night and day different. Joe Burrow, it's no mystery. He struggles against AFC North teams. Yep. They dominate Joe Burrow.
Him, man. Yep.
First game of the season, Joe threw 4 picks against the Steelers at home, and they lost. Horrible loss. Joe Burrow versus the AFC North this season was 4-3. He 258 yards per game, 13 touchdowns to 9 interceptions. That's not good. Burrow versus non-AFC North teams this year was 9-1, 288 passing yards per game, 23 touchdowns to 3 interceptions. And here's the biggest thing. We didn't get a full game against Bills and Bengals, but what we did get was Joe Burrow going 4 of 4 for 52 yards and a touchdown. That's a perfect quarterback rating against the Bills. And they had a 7-3 lead, and they were driving down that field. And I'm telling you right now, they would have scored another touchdown because the Bills weren't stopping them that night. Josh Allen versus AFC East teams was 5-2. He averaged 269 passing yards. We know he rushed the ball a lot too. 15 touchdowns to 5 interceptions. Against non-AFC North teams, he averages less yards, almost 20 yards, 23 touchdowns, but 11 interceptions. So he turns the ball over a lot against non-AFC East teams. And that's the biggest thing in all of this, is that I think that we're giving the Bills a lot of credit here as a 5.5-point favorite when Josh Allen, by far, if you went across the remaining teams in the playoff picture, not just the AFC side, NFC side, if you were to tell me to take a vote right now across this table, across the spoken as a whole, who do you think is more likely to have a turnover this week of all the quarterbacks? Joking aside, we're all saying Josh Allen over Brock Purdy, Dak Prescott, Patrick Mahomes, Trevor Lawrence.
It's close between him and Dak, but yes.
Dak, yeah, I would say really close.
But the fact that so that's fair. Because guess what,
Dak?
Exactly.
Yes,
because they both led the league in
yeah.
interceptions.
Yeah.
So you know what I'm saying? Like, this is what I'm saying, is that we're giving them all this credit, even though they have the quarterback that literally almost lost them a game against a backup rookie quarterback in Skylar Thompson at home. While Joe Burrow, yes, did survive a team, but an elite defense that knows them better than anybody. A team that beat them earlier in the season. There was Lamar Jackson away from probably beating the Bengals. And if you look at the stats here, man, and I'm going to pull these up, and I tweeted this out a couple days ago. The Bills have committed at least 1 turnover in 6 of their last 7 games and have committed at least 3 turnovers in their last 3 straight games. Meanwhile, the Bengals have forced 13 turnovers and are a +5 in turnover takeaways in their last 6 games. And when we talk about this underdog stuff, about, they're 5.5-point dogs, how the hell does this happen? You know, this might actually be the best thing for Joe Burrow and the Bengals. Here's the reason why. Joe Burrow as a 3+ point underdog is 13-2, and in his last 7 games as an underdog is 7-0. The Bills have played 6 games since losing Von Miller. In those 6 games, they've only faced 1 good offense, and it was in the Dolphins back with Tua in Week 14. We remember that game. It was a great game. Yep. In that game, Tua threw 2 touchdowns, 0 picks with a 104 quarterback rating, and Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle combined for 12 receptions, 183 yards, and 2 touchdowns. In that same span, the Bills faced 3 top 11 defenses, the Patriots twice, and the Jets. The Bills' offense averaged only 19 points per game in those games. The Bengals come into this matchup with the 5th best scoring defense. They've allowed the 3rd fewest passing touchdowns. They're 6th in interceptions, 9th in quarterback hits, and 9th in red zone defense. Who's the only team, or who's one of the only teams, I should say, in the league that can even make a case that they have a better wide receiving core than the Dolphins? The Bengals. Who has a significantly better quarterback than the Dolphins? The Bengals. Here's the other thing. Josh Allen has yet to beat a quarterback that is just as good, or if not better than him, in a postseason game. Think about it. In 2019, he lost to Deshaun Watson, who at that time was a much better quarterback than he was at that time of his career. Josh Allen was a project player at that time without Stephon Diggs. Deshaun Watson was a top 5 quarterback.
I mean, the Bills were leading that game and shit the bed.
And then he threw that little no-look and ruined the whole thing. In 2020, he beat a 39-year-old Phillip Rivers, a very close game, I might add, in Buffalo. He also beat Lamar Jackson, who came down massively from his previous MVP season, and has been, let's be honest, Lamar Jackson, as fun as he is and as much as I love him, he's terrible in the postseason. And then you look at, and then obviously we know what happened in the AFC Championship. Patrick Mahomes clapped his cheeks. And then in 2021, he beats Mac Jones. Moving on. Then has his season ended again by Patrick Mahomes. And then we see what happens. He survives Skylar Thompson. Woo! Yeah. All right. So 4 of his victories were against quarterbacks he should have beat. Joe Burrow is a better quarterback than Josh Allen right now. He's a better quarterback in bigger moments than Josh Allen is. And that is why Josh Allen will not take down Joe Burrow in this divisional matchup. They have the better defense. And here's the thing. I know that the Bengals have an offensive line that's struggling right now. That is something to be considered. But this would be a game that Von Miller can decide for you. If you had this offensive line banged up like this and Von Miller was playing, I would pick the Bills because he would wreak havoc on this game. But here's the problem, guys. Even when Joe Burrow gets sacked a fuck ton of times, he still finds a way to beat you. We just saw the number 1 seed last year in the Tennessee Titans in Tennessee sack Joe Burrow 9 times.
Shit, last year's run in the postseason outside of our game, they was getting sacked like 4 times per game.
Joe Burrow got sacked got sacked over 70 times last season. He had a horrific offensive line last year, and they got to the Super Bowl. They were down 21-3 in the AFC Championship against the Chiefs. Sorry, Chiefs fans, we got to talk about it.
Yep.
And they came back and won.
The Super Bowl.
You look
But we
at
didn't
this,
sack him in that game.
and this Bills pass rush has been nowhere near. This has been nowhere near as good as it was with Von Miller. And it has to be expected. He's one of the best pass rushers to ever live. This is going to be a game they're going to finally miss him. And again, even if they sack Joe Burrow in this game 4 or 5 times, I still have all the utmost confidence he's going to find ways to get the ball in his playmakers' hands. Because I don't expect the Bills to be able to make those types of plays on a consistent basis. You saw it again, and here's the funny thing. The biggest reason why the Titans lost to the Bengals last year is what? It wasn't because they didn't. Their defense was fine in that game. It was because Tannehill turned the ball over 3 times. Yep. This is what it's going to come back down to. The Bills don't run the ball well enough. Josh Allen can't get it out of his own way. He's about to go against maybe the best defensive coordinator in the league, and Lou Armanaro, however you say his name. The dude has the best second.
He's going to be a head coach at some point.
The guy has the best second half adjustments in the league. The Bengals are going to go into this game, and they're going to beat the Bills. They are the better team with the better quarterback, and I'm going to say it, the better head coach. I think Zach Taylor is a better head coach than Sean McDermott.
Yeah,
I like Sean McDermott.
Yeah.
But you see,
coaches, yeah.
7 of the 8 remaining head coaches are offensive-minded head coaches.
Yeah,
There's
Zach
not
Taylor,
a coincidence there.
Working his way up to the top of the list, man.
The Bengals are going to win this game, and I'm going to give them the points. I think they win this game by over 5 points. I say they win this game by over a touchdown because I think they're going to win the turnover battle, and I think Joe Burrow is going to overcome his offensive line problems because I don't believe the Bills' defense is going to get to him enough. And that's where I'm going to leave it. Trevor, what are your take? What's your take?
Here's the thing, man. I think the Buffalo Bills are also going to lose this game. I think the Bengals are the better team. I think this is an absolute bait and switch by Vegas. I think they know. Listen, if you're the Bengals offense and you're preparing for that Baltimore defense going into a back-to-back game, nonetheless, playing that defense back-to-back weeks, ending the year and then immediately facing off with them again, whether it's in Baltimore, whether it's in in the Bengals stadium in Cincinnati, it doesn't matter. Playing against that defense back-to-back weeks and then going and facing this so-so secondary of the Bills, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd, and whoever else is willing to catch a football in this game is going to eat. I think this Bengals defense is going to go off. I really do. And Joe Burrow is going to get sacked probably 3 times in this game, probably at least 3 times. I don't care. This Joe Mixon's probably gonna eat as well, and I can see some massive dump offs. And he was even finding a lot of success against the stout Ravens defense early on in that game with some dump offs, and even running the ball well. And the Bengals don't run the ball well really at all season, but they do find ways to get the ball in the hands of their running backs, and they're very skilled. Samaje Perine and Joe Mixon are very good pass catching backs. And I think the receiving talent. I think they have the best trio of receivers in the league. And I think they're going to go and do what they do to most teams, and they absolutely de-pants a lot of these secondaries, especially Jamar Chase, especially with yards after catch with him, and T. Higgins absolutely just going up and getting the 50-50 balls in the red zone. This is not a good matchup for the Bills. And I think everyone knew that, and everyone saw that when they were, in that first quarter of that game before, Damar Hamlin went down in that game. And I think everyone was kind of getting a vibe like, oh, shit, this game, the Bengals are moving with ease. And that secondary listen, Skylar Thompson was making some throws on that secondary. Not a lot, but he was making, there's a couple of 3rd and longs, and they converted. Skylar Thompson was converting on that. And Jalen Waddle didn't do a jack shit in that game. Tyreek Hill was having to pull some things out of his ass. Yeah, but he was still out there playing, and he didn't do anything, Tyreek, and it was, some tight ends out there making some plays here and there, some running backs making some plays, but that game was way too close. A lot of
drop balls.
Yeah, and if we're being honest, Cincinnati's defense is better than Miami's as well. So, this is not a good matchup for the Bills. And the fact that they're the favorite is laughable. And all of my money will be on the Cincinnati Bengals. And I will take the over for the Cincinnati Bengals points, the team points. I think they're going to score 30-plus on them.
Yep.
I do. I really like their offense against the secondary. I think they'll get the ball out quick, whether it's to Jamar Chase on some dump-off plays and let him get some yak. And same with Joe Mixon. And then when things get tight, you know what to do. Throw that ball up to big 6'6" T. Higgins. Let him go get that ball. I'm telling you, man. In my mind, I just don't. I understand. The offense. I'm not belittling the offense. I haven't even talked about the offense of the Bills yet. I know that they can put up points as well. I do. I understand that. And I think Josh Allen's going to have to run a lot in this game because I think that he's going to be pressured, and I think the coverage is going to be good in the secondary, as it has been for a lot of these games. The Bengals have found ways. They don't have talented corners and safeties like Bates and guys. They're decent players. Eli Apple is a so-so corner in this league. He's been a journeyman really. But they find ways that their scheme has been solid all year. They've found ways to, make plays in that secondary while producing pressures with like an okay roster. There's no stars in this roster, but they find ways to get pressure. And I think it's going to come down to points scored in this game, and I'm taking the better offense in this game and the better quarterback right now. It's not even close. It's not even close right now who the better quarterback is. It is Joe Burrow. And I know he just struggled against the Baltimore Ravens defense, but that is a legitimate defense who's one of the best defenses at getting after the quarterback. And they had 2 offensive linemen go down in that game.
Same division, too.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
These teams know each other.
Third game.
I think this is a terrible matchup for the Bills. And I think the Bills, and I love it because all these Bills fans are buying up all these tickets to go to this, to go to Atlanta, and I think that their heart's going to get ripped out of their ass. And it's not even because I don't even care who wins this game. I don't, because I think the Chiefs are beating whoever. As long as we beat the Jaguars and take care of business tomorrow, I think we're beating whoever comes out of this game. And I know we'll get to that. We got a lot of time to get to that. And I'm very overconfident right now, but I don't care. I think this is a terrible matchup for the Bills. And I think T. Higgins, I think Jamar Chase, I think those 2 guys in particular, the 2 alphas in that passing game, I think they're going to go and they're going to go eat, and I think they're going to score points, and I think they're going to score north of 30, and I think they hold the Bills under 30, and I think the Bengals go out there and take care of business and win this game, as we should have seen weeks ago.
I think this weekend we're going to see Joey Cool in the locker room with a cigar, reminding us of that great Lynn Dawson.
Confident.
After
motherfucker.
after winning a divisional round against the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo. I got Joey Cool winning this game.
All 3 of us. I thought we were going to disagree on this one.
No, man.
I got the Bengals winning this game.
not dumb.
The Bengals, in my opinion, are the best team in the AFC right now as it stands.
It's hard to disagree.
There is no doubt in my mind.
They're scary, man.
They are this scariest team. I think teams are more afraid to face the Bengals right now than they are to face the Chiefs. And we can have a debate about that,
fine.
But it's very debatable. Which is, I mean, Joey Cool is an elite quarterback. We gotta address that. He's elite. Like he's
a winner.
top level. He is almost there with Mahomes. If
He's
he
the
wins,
second best quarterback
If
in the
he
league.
if he wins the Super Bowl this year, you can put him neck and neck.
Start making comparisons.
Yeah,
that becomes a conversation.
That becomes a real debate. You can throw Josh.
I would
Allen.
take Patrick Mahomes in a heartbeat, but yeah, it's
You can
becomes a
throw, but
conversation.
yeah, it actually becomes a debate now.
Right,
You know what I mean?
right.
Because 3-0 against Mahomes, and now you got a Super Bowl win. So, but yeah, I do think the Bengals have the better receiving core. No disrespect to Stephon Diggs. Stephon Diggs, amazing wide receiver.
Yep.
Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. Come on, man. Wherever Joey Cool puts the fucking ball, they're gonna catch it.
It comes down to points scored. Give me the Bengals. Give me the better offense.
And I like how they utilize Joe Mixon. They're not a run first kind of offense. They rely more on the pass, more on Joe Burrow to make plays. But when they have to rely on the running game, they have Joe Mixon, who is really good at those quick little handouts or whatever they call them. I just don't see the Bills having an answer to that kind of offensive power. We saw it. We saw it before tragedy struck in week 17.
Damar Hamlin, yeah.
With Damar Hamlin, the Bengals were driving the ball. They scored that touchdown, and they gave the Bills they scored the 3, and the Bengals were just driving
It
them.
looked easy.
It looked easy for them. I thought they were gonna go up 14-3 that same drive. I think they were just gonna score with ease.
Right.
I just don't see how the Bills can go to this game like confident that they're gonna win this game. I just can't see it. I'm trying to picture it's like, well, if they sack Joe Burrow, but we've seen Joe Burrow get sacked 9 times, like you said, against the Titans. That's a really good defense.
Yep.
That was a really good defense. And he still found a way to put his team in a winning position to get that winning field goal at the end. Mm-hmm. And I think he can do that at any moment in time, where even if you sack him, even if he turns the ball over like 4 times, he still finds a way to keep the game close and win the game. I think Buffalo, what would they have to do is sack them as many times as they want, and at the same time turn the ball over, force turnovers. That's the only way I can see them really slowing down this Bengals offense and more than likely coming out with the victory. But I just don't see it. I don't see the Bills doing that kind of.
Well, and if we're being honest too, the funny thing is we've overglorified the Bills all year in a team which I believe has peaked. We could talk another thing too. That's like a narrative that's going into this game. What no one's really talking about is experience. The Bills have been in the playoffs numerous times in the last couple of years for sure, but the Bengals have already gone on a further run and have more experience in these tougher games than the Bills already have.
They went to the Super Bowl.
That's what I'm saying.
And their victories were on the road.
They're more tried and tested than the Bills even are. You know what I mean?
100%.
And the Bills continue to be a yearly loser.
The Bengals are like the Bengals
have already proven to beat the Chiefs, the big dog of the AFC. They took that crown. They went to the Super Bowl. This is
why
no one's talking about that.
I've been on Buffalo shows. Okay, yeah. I've been on Buffalo fan shows, radio shows, whatever. Yeah. And this is what I keep telling them. It is not that I'm refusing to give the Bills credit.
They're treating them like they were the team that just went to the Super Bowl. I'm refusing to give the Bills credit for what they haven't earned. Yeah, they're treating the Bills like they just went to the Super Bowl, not the Bengals.
When we talk about Bengals,
it's weird.
When you talked about, Eddie, about the Bengals being the best team, I said it's hard to debate that because they are 3-0 against Patrick Mahomes when Joe Burrow's been there. Yeah. So I give them their respect because they've earned that. The Bills have yet to do that. And in this matchup, everyone's talking about the emotional roller coaster they're going to be on because DeMar Hamlin's going to be there, the heavy hearts, and it's going to be this feel-good thing. What about for the Bengals, though? What about the emotional advantage they're going to have? Because they felt robbed from what happened in the regular season. They know this is a game they should be hosting, or at worst, in a neutral site. They're going to come in this game pissed off as hell.
Bro, the DeMar Hamlin hype went out the window when they barely pulled out that win against the Dolphins.
And that's the next point I'm going to bring up.
Where was that hype last week?
The Bills, I'm just going to put this out there right now, and I know I'm going to get flack for it. I don't give a shit. The Bills are not good enough to win this game.
They're not.
And there's the reason why. Look at they've been predicated on Josh Allen making huge plays and their defense being this juggernaut. Their defense is no longer a juggernaut.
Well, they needed numerous delay of games last week to lose to a rookie quarterback.
Exactly. And you're talking about against the Patriots, when a game they had to win because they could still win the 1 seed when the Chiefs still had to play the Raiders. Mac Jones threw 3 touchdowns on that defense, and it took 2 historic returns from Nyheim Hines, unprecedented returns. And they won. Yeah, they won. I think they ended up winning by double digits. But the point is, 14 of your points were on special
kickoff
teams.
Returns. Yeah.
Oh yeah, the offense outscored their offense.
Exactly.
Sure.
The Patriots were moving the ball all over that defense, and in Buffalo, in a game they had to win. And if it wasn't for Nyheim Hines returning that second kick, because at that point the Patriots were up 24-21 in the fourth quarter, they could have won the game. And the Dolphins game is the biggest one. Josh Allen was the single reason why that was even a game. They should have won that game by 25, 30 points. But he can't get out of his own way. And that's why this game is going to go the way it's going to go.
And there's one thing I don't think people are talking about enough, and I've talked about it earlier in the season. And that is the Bills losing Brandon Dable.
Oh yeah,
to the Giants.
It shows.
We saw the massive difference between last year and this year's Josh Allen in turnovers. What was the biggest thing? The biggest concern about Josh Allen coming into the league? Turnovers. That his first season, very inaccurate, turnover prone, fumble prone, and Brian Dable was able to work with Josh Allen and get that away from his game.
Yeah.
He pretty much took it. I mean, he did throw picks and all that, but they weren't as obvious. They weren't, you know what I mean? They were just maybe a bad throw here or there, but they weren't just as obvious what they've done this season. And the fumbles this season, is incredible how many fumbles he's had this season alone. And I think that doesn't get talked about enough. And them losing Brian Dable is massive. Was massive, and we saw the difference. And I think that we're gonna see that this week, and how much of a hole that is on Josh Allen, and how much that has affected his game, because we see Brian Dable in New York with Daniel Jones
getting the most out of him.
Who I was like, he's trash.
Yeah.
There's no way. There's no saving Daniel Jones. And he just won him a game last week in the playoffs.
And if you look at this matchup right now, the way the Bengals are going to play Josh Allen, they're going to force him to make the underthrows. They're going to force the Bills to have 12 to 15 play drives. That is not, the Bills are not able to do that.
The Bills cannot run the game.
You can't help it.
They're a
They
home
can't-
run offense.
Yes,
They
and
can't
they're going to
run.
play that drop 8 just like they did against Patrick Mahomes last year, because we all know that Patrick loves chucking that ball just like Josh Allen. The only difference is Patrick learned to take the cut. That's why Jerick McKinnon became such a pivotal piece to the Chiefs offense this year, because Patrick's like, all right, bet, you're going to drop 8, I'm just going to dump this off to my playmaker, and he's going to get 18 yards at a time. And so that's what Josh Allen still doesn't learn. He can't get out of his own way, and it's not going to change this week. The Bengals are going to play that same style of defense, because they don't get to the quarterback as well as other teams. I think they were like 25th in sacks this year, but that's not their strength. Their strength is making you play to set up the turnover.
Which is why Josh Allen led the league in turnovers in the red zone, because when things
Thank
get tight,
you.
he's not a good playmaker. He doesn't make the plays when things are tight.
make
He's
the short
he's
throws.
good at making. He's got the best deep ball in the game.
59-yard throws on the
For
dime.
sure.
Yeah.
Joe Flacco was also the best deep ball thrower for a while there when they won the Super Bowl. He was incredible, but his intermediate passing was terrible. I'm not comparing Josh Allen to Joe
No,
Flacco.
Josh
I'm
is
just saying,
clearly better.
but there is a true pattern
Super Bowl
here.
champion one
There is a
time.
pattern. This is why when things get tight, I mean, it is true, man.
No.
So
That's what the Bengals are going to do in this game. I'm telling you guys right now.
I just the red zone thing is a big concern, especially going into this game against the Bengals, who can turn over the ball. So Josh Allen has to go with the mindset of, I cannot turn. He has to be at 100% to win this game.
Well, and imagine how motivated, we haven't even talked about this really. Imagine how motivated this Bengals team is to make up for that game that they didn't get to play.
That's what I'm
that
saying.
statement that they were ready to make. They were ready to make that statement that game.
And then they get
against the
rewarded
Bills.
with, oh, hey, you might host a playoff game. Oh, and if you win that game, you're going to have to
be
play
a
the
coach.
Bills in Buffalo. Like, they got absolutely rooted. Let me take this one step further. This is going to sound so screwed up. It's going to be good for the NFL if the Bengals win this game. And I'm going to tell you why. Because the NFL is waiting. They want that neutral site for the AFC Championship.
Yeah.
You know why that is?
Yeah.
Because that's going to help the NFL gain more revenue. Because they love these international games.
Well, they might try that shit later on,
yes,
too.
that's what I'm saying. If this ends up happening, let's say the Chiefs beat the Jaguars and the Bills beat the Bengals,
And they get great
the NFL is
ratings.
going to love that because they get a neutral site in Atlanta.
Yeah.
All these big spenders are spending all that money on these massively expensive tickets.
It's like a Super Bowl before the
as
Super Bowl.
opposed to having another AFC
thi-
champion,
and
Kansas
this,
City.
This is kind of like what the NBA kind of did with the whole COVID-19. It's like we're gonna throw this play-in bracket. You know, they just kind of like tossed it in there. It's like,
Yeah.
you know, for COVID reasons.
Yeah.
Now it's
And
fixed.
now,
now it's there.
Now it's there.
Which
That's
is-
what
that
the
was a
NFL's
great
trying
idea.
to do.
It's
you're
a
right.
great,
That was a
it's
great idea.
Yes, I agree, but you're right, Eddie.
And I think
This
what
is not a good idea.
And I think this is what the
fucks
NFL
over the 1 seed.
And I think this is what the NFL is trying to do, to where like they're like, well, you know, because it was a.
And if the
Yeah,
Bengals win
and
this
if the-
game, that all goes away.
Oh well, yes.
and then the
exactly.
experiment never even
Never
happens.
happens.
So
Yeah.
this is good for the
'Cause
NFL
if they-
as far as the consumers
yeah.
are concerned.
If they see success, they see money, they're gonna be like, "This is it.
that's
This
all
is
that matters.
it." And it's so unfair, like you said, for the 1 seed. At that moment in time, what is the point of getting the 1 seed?
Right.
At this point, get something lower than the 1 seed. You know, so you can host a couple games home. I don't know. I mean, the only advantage is what you're off the first week of you're off the wild card. Is that really an advantage?
That is,
That
but
is,
not
it-
enough.
exactly for
Yeah.
a 1 seed in a where there's
The
only
only-
32 teams.
Yeah.
so-
Only real perky beginning is the 1 seed is really that bye.
Right, and
That's
then,
the
and
main
then you're
perk.
talking about at best you get one game.
Yeah.
That's bullshit.
Yeah.
That's absolute bullshit.
Yep.
So, man, I did not expect us all to agree on this game, but
I've been on the
happy
Bengals
that we are because
right
I
on
think
this.
we're all on the right
You
side
saw
here.
you saw my playoff bracket when you gave it to me this
I actually didn't
last
look.
week.
I actually
Oh,
didn't
well,
look. It's a little rule
this-
I have, so that
this
way I
last
didn't.
week. So
yeah.
I'm just saying.
I wanted to stay surprised.
Watch out for the Bengals.
Yeah, I agree.
Watch out for the Bengals.
Well, our fourth and final. Go ahead, Eddie.
Sorry, there's
Yeah.
a comment I forgot I was going to
Absolutely.
read, but it's from Clear the Air with E on YouTube. Plus, the Bengals shortened games means less possessions for the Bills. Bengals have a great offense, but damn, it's boring but effective. effective. Lots of quick throws to Burrow, and that is very true.
They can spring a long drives.
You're
and
preaching.
they can very well make Josh Allen kind of try and hurry up and catch up and force him into
And then
turnover.
Buffalo Wild Flings happens. Buffalo Wild Flings. That's
no
what I like
offense
to
to the
call
Bills,
it.
but I believe
That's
this Bills
a
team is
really
peaked.
really good point right there.
Yeah, that was a great comment. I appreciate that. Keep those coming. And to the fourth and final game, the one that I know we're all looking forward to the most, the 1 seed Chiefs are taking on the 4 seed Jaguars. The over-under is 53. Chiefs are favored by 9 points. They're a -9 favorite right now. It looks like there is a chance some snow. Right now it's just saying cloudy, but there is a chance that it's going to be an early 30 or lower 30s, higher 20s. It'll be a colder game, which actually could very much benefit the Chiefs, and I'll get to that in a second. I said it the moment it happened when the Jaguars were down 27-0. Trevor and I were watching this game together. Eddie, we were all texting, and I did for a second thought that game was over. I was like, you know what? Damn, the Chargers are finally they're gonna win a playoff game for the first time in a long ass time. Like that, they earned this. I mean, Trevor Lawrence shit his pants. He threw 4 interceptions. I think Asante Samuel caught 3 of them in the first half. First quarter, Trevor Lawrence just looked as bad as a quarterback could possibly. He looked like Brian Hoyer out there in 2015 against the Chiefs. You remember that game where he threw 4 or 5 interceptions? And I thought for a brief second that game was over. And then I saw Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars march down in that third quarter and score a touchdown. I said, oh shit, this might actually happen. And then what happens? The Chargers do what Chargers do and choked away one of the biggest losses in the history of the NFL postseason. And as much credit as I'm going to give the Jaguars, because I love Dougie P. I think Doug Peterson's an awesome head coach. He was the perfect guy for Trevor Lawrence. I said that before he ever went there. I think Trevor Lawrence is emerging as an absolute superstar as a quarterback. I think Evan Ingram has just completely reestablished himself in this league. He was a complete bust in New York, and he's absolutely worked his way as the number 1 target for Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville. They have Christian Kirk, who's an absolute burner, who's actually earning that contract that we all thought was ridiculous. Really but he's been playing well. Zay Jones has been playing well. Travis Etienne's a hell of a running back. But that game was more about the Chargers than the Jaguars. Literally any other team in the postseason would have won that game, except the Chargers. And I'm including the Buccaneers. If the Buccaneers were up 27-0 against the Jaguars in that game, they win that game. Tom Brady does not lose that game. He does not give up a 27-point deficit. Only Brandon Staley, only Justin Herbert. And let me just put that out there real quick as a little sidebar. Y'all got to quit telling me that Justin Herbert's an elite quarterback. I've been telling people for 2 fucking years now. And I am one. I'm going to pat myself on the back here. I'm the one that's been saying it. Justin Herbert is not an elite quarterback.
Prove it, bro.
He is an elite talent. That dude has got supreme talent. That dude can throw the football like very few ever could. Like Brett Favre, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes are the only 3 I can think about that even throw it close to what that dude does. He throws like a goddamn javelin. He looks like Brad Pitt and Troy when he's throwing that shit.
I call him a glorified Phillip Rivers.
I think he's far more talented than Phillip Rivers.
He's got a way more of a
But
cannon than
hey,
Phil.
but the curse is continuing apparently. And so, look, I like Justin. I'm a fan of Justin Herbert.
Yeah, man.
But I am so sick and tired of people giving this dude credit for what he has not earned. We talk about the Bills. It's the same goddamn thing when it comes to this Chargers team. Every single year, they're the paper champions. They're the preseason favorites. They're this and that, and they always
won playoff games at least.
fail. Yeah, at least they got to the damn playoffs. Now they're keeping Brandon Staley where they want to give Lombardi the boot. It's hilarious how this team operates. It's hilarious. I love it. I feel bad for Justin Herbert because he's never going to win a damn thing in L.A. That's how it's going to continue to go. This is just what this team does. That was just a sidebar. That game is more about what the Chargers aren't than what the Jaguars are.
Oh, 100%.
I'm still going to give the Jaguars some credit here, but I'm going to be real with you guys. This is the perfect matchup for the Chiefs in the divisional round. The perfect matchup. Again, I know that's a magical, nice run that the Jaguars just had. Trevor Lawrence is hanging out at Waffle House. Everybody's feeling good. This team is going to be a perennial playoff team. They are on their way. As long as Doug Peterson and Trevor Lawrence are together, this is going to be one of the 5-6 best teams in the AFC.
It's their division now.
They have established themselves. They are going to continue to rise. This is going to be a team that I think the Chiefs are. This isn't going to be the only time they play each other in the playoffs. This is going to happen a few times.
Yep.
But unfortunately, the Chiefs are so much further ahead than the Jaguars are right now. And this is such a significant mismatch. And if I know that regular season matchups and postseason matchups are so different, right? But if you look at the way these teams line up against each other, I don't think that there's any reason in the world why we need to sit here and worry at all about the Jaguars winning this game. And maybe I'm going to be on Old Takes Exposed. I know after Kurt Warner interacted with me and that went viral this week, maybe more people will start to, attach to my tweets and start throwing out their Old Takes Exposed, and I'll ride with it and I'll take it and I'll hold that L. But there's not a single thing that the Jaguars can do that is going to convince me that that's going to be a reason why they can beat the Chiefs. Because I don't believe they can. I know the Jaguars I think they're 4th in the league in turnovers this year, or takeaways this year. And even in their Week 10 matchup against the Chiefs, they won the turnover battle 3-0. They also had an onside kick. I believe they had a fake punt. The Chiefs missed a field goal and a PAT, if I'm not mistaken. They had left several points on the board, gave the Jaguars extra possessions, and the Chiefs still won by 10 points. Oh, not to mention the fact the Jaguars had a garbage time touchdown with 5.5 minutes to go in the game when they were down 27-10. So, look, man, I appreciate what the Jaguars are, but even if you look in the details of this matchup, the Jaguars have the 32nd ranked defense against tight ends this season. They gave up 1,087 yards to tight ends this year with 13.1 yards per reception, which was both the 3rd worst in the NFL. And if you look at Travis Kelce over his last 12 games in the postseason, just period, and I'll pull his numbers up right now, 87 receptions for 1,063 yards. That's 86 yards per game with 13 total touchdowns. One of those touchdowns was a throwing touchdown against the Steelers, but I still got to count it because it was a touchdown. But he has 12 receiving touchdowns in his last 12 postseason games. And against the worst defense imaginable against tight ends, there's no excuse why Travis Kelce can't get 8 to 10 receptions for 100 to 150 yards and a touchdown in this game. That's going to be the deciding factor. I mean, if you go watch that game again, and I did watch the All-22 on this matchup, everybody was wide open. The Chiefs were getting almost 8 yards per play against this Jaguars defense. And again, the Jags are playing better as a team, as a collective over these last 5 weeks, but that also has a lot to do with their competition. And when they have faced really good quarterbacks, you just saw what Justin Herbert was doing to them in that first half. The Chiefs aren't the Chargers. They're not a team that's going to build this humongous lead and then just give it up. That's not how this game's going to go. The Chiefs are going to dominate this game, I believe, from wire to wire, because they also know the Jaguars aren't going to give up. They're not going to be a team that's going to lay down. They're going to fight, and that's exactly what they did this last week. And again, the Chiefs have the best in the league on the best offense on 3rd and 4th downs. They can complete 57% of those 3rd and 4th downs. The Jaguars defense ranks 31st defending the pass on 3rd and 4th downs. They only convert 23% of those 3rd and 4th down conversions. And if you look at Andy Reid historically, because we know that the Chiefs are now in that area of building legacy. We're talking about dynasties. Peter Schrager was on Good Morning Football this week, basically calling out the Chiefs in a respectful way. Are you guys that dynasty? Yeah. I love that. Well, we're looking at dynasty. Andy Reid is a win away from his 10th playoff victory with the Chiefs. He would be the only coach in NFL history with 10 playoff wins with 2 different teams, with the Chiefs and Eagles. He would also tie Tom Landry for 2nd most playoff wins in NFL history with 20. Andy Reid is also, because we talk about buys and how important that is, well, the Chiefs are coming off a bye. Andy Reid in his entire career is 27-4 after a bye, and with Patrick Mahomes, they're 9-1 after a bye in their career. And the Chiefs have won their last 4 divisional round games, and not only have they won them by 12 points per game. Patrick Mahomes' numbers in the divisional round in his career, they're 4-0, obviously. He completes 69%, nice, of his passes. He's had 1,232 passing yards, which is 308 passing yards per game, 12 total touchdowns to 0 interceptions, 8.2 yards per attempt, with a 114 quarterback rating. In other words, guys, and I know this sounds like a pompous, arrogant, overly confident Chiefs fan, but I'm going to be real with you. I think I have the right to be, because the Chiefs have been in this position now. This will be their 5th time in the divisional round, and all 5 times they have clearly outmatched their opponent. It took Patrick Mahomes literally getting knocked out of the game against the Browns for that game to be close. And Chad Henne still put that bitch on ice. So outside of that game, the Chiefs have dominated their opposition in the divisional round. It's not going to be any different this time around. In fact, I think this game's going to be more like the Steelers' wild card game last year. Ooh. And I'm going to say that. I think the Chiefs are going to put all kinds of points on this Jaguars defense because they cannot stop what the Chiefs are great at. And they, on their offensive side of things, you have to see what this Jaguars offense is. Again, Trevor Lawrence really started to put it on in that game. But let's be real. The Chargers absolutely took their foot off the gas, offensively and defensively. And let's be real. The Chargers scored the points they scored without Mike Williams in that game. So if you put Mike Williams in that game, the Chargers are probably going to win that game. And they're going to probably put up 35 points. My point in this is the Chiefs are coming into this game outside of McCole Hardman, healthy as could be. Kadarius Toney's had now 10 weeks in this offense, and he had 71 yards against that Jaguars team in his first full game as a Chief, and a touchdown, I might add. With Kadarius Toney, Juju Smith-Schuster, Travis Kelce, and not to mention, the historic now Jarrett Clutch McKinnon, who's had 6 straight games with a receiving touchdown, still very much in the mix. Clyde's coming back and is healthy. Good depth piece. Isaiah Pacheco being the running back he is. The only way this game's even close is if Travis Etienne is running all over the field. The Chiefs all of a sudden forget how to play run defense, which, by the way, if I'm not mistaken, we're in the top 10 this year in rush defense. And Travis Etienne, last time they played, I think had 46 rushing yards. He didn't do shit in that game. Guys, I'm telling you right now, you have to explain to me how the Chiefs don't cover this -9 over under the point spread. I don't see how they don't score in the upwards of 35 to 40 points in this game. Because in that first one, like I said, the Jaguars had 3 extra possessions just on turnovers alone. Not to mention the onside kick, not to mention the fake punt, not to mention all the field goals the Chiefs left on the field.
Injury early.
Juju got concussed by Andre Sisco in the second quarter. Mm-hmm. And the Chiefs still put up 27. You give them 3 extra possessions in this game?
1 by 10, yeah.
And if the Chiefs don't turn the ball over, I don't know if you guys saw that stat I posted. In games that the Chiefs don't have a turnover, in the Patrick Mahomes era, they're 24-3. The Jaguars are going to have to score 35 in this game to have a chance. And I don't think they're a good enough offense to do that. Because they had a good everything in their power against the Chargers, and they scored 31. At the very end of the game in a game-winning field goal. That's not how this game's going to go. I don't think they have the offensive firepower to come into Kansas City and face the 16th best-ranked defense in the league. Chris Jones on an absolute tear. Karlaftis finding his groove. The linebackers clicking on all cylinders with Willie Gay and Nick Bolton playing the way they're playing. Secondary is still very young, but I don't think that the Jaguars are going to be the type of offense because Trevor Lawrence, although is very, very good, he's one of the 5 best quarterbacks in the league when he has a clean pocket. Which, by the way, he has 2 offensive linemen that are questionable in this game. 2 of his best offensive linemen, Brandon Scherf for one of them, and his center. But against pockets where he's pressured, he's one of the worst quarterbacks in the league. The Chiefs are going to get pressure. They second in the league in sacks this year, 55. They're going to get pressure on Trevor Lawrence in this game like they did the first time. They had 5 sacks in that game. Guys, I think the Chiefs are going to win this game by 20 points, 20-plus points. I don't think this is going to be a close game. There's no reason in the world for me to think so. I think Patrick Mahomes is going to go out there and throw for over 400 yards and 4 touchdowns. And I don't know if you guys saw, but like I said, he's closing in on some all-time great quarterbacks, and they know that. And if we know anything about this team, we've seen over the last 4 or 5 to 6 weeks, the Chiefs have been kind of lackadaisical. You look like a team that's just trying to get to the postseason. Jason Dunn, said himself, and the Chief Concern postgame show to me that this team looks like they're just waiting to get to the postseason. Let's stay healthy. And if we know anything about Travis Kelce, who had 100-plus receptions for 1,300 yards and 12 touchdowns, an amazing season, guys, for that last third of the season, the Chiefs had him on a pitch count. They were clearly managing him. He's going to unleash in this postseason. Travis Kelce is going to have a monster game against the Jaguars. The Chiefs are going to have a monster game against the Jaguars. I am picking the Chiefs to win this game by at least 3 scores. Trevor.
3 scores. Wow.
3 scores.
To be fair, just to get that to your point about the Chargers putting up those points against the Jags defense, to be fair to the Jags defense, the Chargers only scored all those points because they were gifted 3 possessions with short fields.
Right.
Immediately almost in scoring position. 2 of those they were almost immediately in scoring position, and Austin Eckler just ran a couple in. So that game was just an odd one. So I think their defense is better than that game portrayed because those points weren't really fair to them, if I'm being honest. And when we saw when the Chargers had to go the length of the field, they couldn't put a single touchdown in that game. So that's credit to that defense. Only can get in field goal range twice. So this game is going to be a lot of points. I'm giving some respect to the Jags here. I think that offense is rolling. They're one of the hottest offenses in the league right now, and let's not forget. I mean, this is an offense that came back in overtime against the Cowboys defense and put 40 plus on them. You know what I mean? So they can put 40 plus on the Cowboys defense. I'm going to give them respect against our defense. Obviously, our defense is not as talented as the Cowboys defense. We can give it up in the pass game.
And that was in Jacksonville.
Sure. Yeah. But 40 points against that defense is impressive. Nonetheless, it doesn't matter who it is. If you're putting up 40 points against them, it's impressive. And I am a little worried about the matchup with Evan Ingram and our safeties. We tend to give it up to athletic tight ends. We gave George Kittle we gave him the game that lit his season on fire. He took off after that, and we were kind of the game that he started that against. And we I think gave up a couple touchdowns to him. And athletic tight ends tend to kind of eat us over the middle, and I don't want to see that. Gerald Everett had a couple of good games against us and played well against us when we faced the Chargers. Darren Waller has had good games against us in the secondary. So I am a little worried about that matchup, and I think the Jags will put up points. I do. I don't think we're going to win by 3 scores. I think this will be a very competitive game. I think I have massive respect for Doug Peterson. I think he's going to come into this game prepared, just like he did last time. And granted, they were gifted 3 turnovers, and that game was a little closer. I think we should have won by more, especially if you take those turnovers away. That's a much different game. We win by big in that one. But I do believe our defense gets after Trevor Lawrence. I do. I think Chris Jones finally gets that monkey off his back without having that postseason sack. I think Chris Jones goes out there and gets one. And the low key stat that we haven't really talked about much with this defensive line and with Karlaftis and Dunlap and his batted balls. Trevor Lawrence is really bad about throwing balls low over the line of scrimmage. I think he's like top 3 in the league with batted balls at the line of scrimmage, and we've been top 4 or 5 in the league the last 7-8 weeks at batting balls down. Yep. George Karlaftis has like 6 batted balls in the last 8-9 weeks, so that's very impressive. We've been very good at that. I think we had 3 batted balls in the game against them last time, so that's a stat I think is important to note. The Chiefs are going to win this game. I'm very confident that the Chiefs are going to win this game. I think we push 38 to 40 plus points in this game, and I think it's going to take all that to put the Jags away. I think they're going to fight. I think this team is this is arguably the hottest team right now. The way they play and the passion they play with, because they've been playing, like you said, we've talked about on the show before, leading the game last week against Chargers, which is why we liked them going to that matchup. Is they've been playing playoff games for the last few weeks. That Titans game, that was a close one against a backup quarterback, but a very stout, healthy defense at the time. Titans were pretty much at full strength on defense there. And that was an impressive win to go out there and get that one, pull that one away. And then that game, that comeback against the Chargers, this is a relentless and resilient team. And that obviously that was a massive gut check, and Trevor Lawrence did nothing but show that he has the internal fortitude to go out there and win games like that. And he's been nothing but a winner throughout his entire career, collegiate and pro. Well, obviously outside of last year, that was a rough one, but since he's had true leadership on this team, he's shown that he can put together numbers, and this offense is rolling, and I'm paying respect to them and that defense. I think that defensive front is very good at getting after quarterbacks, very good at stopping the run. So we're going to have to run the ball well. But the biggest matchup in this game that gives me pause about this matchup is a guy that didn't do very well against us the first time, and that's Travis Etienne. Travis Etienne is a guy that could wreck this game for us. I think if he goes out there and has a big performance, that's gonna definitely. Granted, we can go and answer back quickly because their secondary can be thrown on by literally anyone. Their secondary has been horrible. It's been a pass funnel defense all year. So if they're chasing points, obviously that will stifle the run. They won't be able to run the ball as much. But Travis Etienne is a guy that can eat in the passing game as well. A guy that is a home run hitter at literally any moment. So that is one guy that does worry me about this matchup. But I do think the Chiefs, I think Travis Kelce is due. This is a massive due spot for him. They are, I think, if they're not worst, they're second at yards allowed to tight ends. So I think their safeties are in for a big matchup here against Travis Kelce. I think he's due for a touchdown. He hasn't scored in like 5 weeks. So I think he's definitely due for that, and I think Travis is going to have a big game here. Him and I think Juju can definitely have a big game here as well. But I do love Kadarius Toney in this matchup, man. I think he's licking his chops at this secondary. A guy that is so good with the ball in his hands, so shifty. We've seen him make guys miss consistently, especially when things get tight. He's been reliable to Patrick Mahomes to give him the ball quick, like a screen pass, and making guys miss and getting into the end zone. And obviously McKinnon is going to do what he does. That guy just has a nose for yardage and the end zone. So I love us here. I love us in this matchup. I love the 40 number. I think 40 is a good number for this offense. I think both teams are going to be in the 30s. I think both teams are going to be. I think this is going to be a 60-point over in this game. I think a lot of points will be scored, and it's going to take every bit of it to put this team that is very resilient is going to fight tooth and nail. And Doug Peterson leading that team with his smarts and his wit about him and his craftiness with plays. I learned a lot from Andy Reid. Both these coaches know each other very well, but he's playing the Godfather, and I think we have that advantage there. And obviously we have the massive advantage at quarterback still with the experience of Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes is going to go out there and lose this game. We're just not going to lose this game. It's going to be competitive. It definitely is going to be competitive, but I think I have us winning. I think it's going to be a one score game. I think we win by about 6 to 7 points. So it's a fairly comfortable win, but I think it will be competitive throughout, and I think there will be lead changes throughout this game. I think this is going to be a competitive race to the finish, but I think both teams score high into the early to mid-30s, and I think the Chiefs might finish this game with 40+. But I have the Chiefs winning for sure in this one.
How about Trevor on this one on the score? I don't know where you got 20+. That's crazy. I just don't see it. I don't see it being a blowout. I think it's going to be a lot closer than what people think. The Jaguars are a good team. They're not a bad team. They definitely fought back and beat the Chargers in that epic comeback win last week. I definitely thought that they were over. Obviously, after the fourth pick, I was like, after Trevor Lawrence threw that fourth pick, I was like, this is over. There's no coming back from that. And the way this team came back in the second half and said, fuck that, we're not done. I mean, it gives you confidence. It gives you a boost. And especially going to against the number one seed, I mean, that boost, can carry on to the next game. I do think that that's going to be a very competitive game. I do agree with Trevor. I think we're going to see multiple lead changes. I do think that the Chiefs are going to end up winning the game, but it's going to be very, very close. It's going to come down to turnovers. It's going to come down to who can run the ball better, who can control the clock. It's going to be crucial for the Chiefs to run the game, control the pace of the game, because the Jaguars can go and spoil things for the Chiefs and could definitely sneak in a win at Arrowhead if the Chiefs are really not at 100%. With Kadarius Toney, I think he's going to have a great game. Obviously, we saw it in the regular season what he can do. I do think he's going to be utilized a lot more into the playoffs. I think more plays. We're going to start seeing more plays designed for him. We know how Andy Reid is in the postseason. He has those special plays designed for specific players, and I think we're going to start seeing a lot more Toney packages going into this game, and I think he's going to have a phenomenal game. I think he's going to be our leading receiver in that game. So, I mean, I don't see a blowout at all. I just can't picture it in my head, us blowing out.
You can't picture that at all?
I just don't.
The Chiefs have been one of the worst teams at covering spreads, though.
Exactly.
Yeah, but they already
we did cover last time.
They beat this team by double digits. All those factors considered.
That was one of the few games we did cover the spread.
But we've seen the Chiefs how when they take big leads, how towards the end of the game
they can backdoor it.
This is the playoffs, so they don't do that in the playoffs.
I get it, but I just don't. I can't see a big blowout like you're predicting. I mean, I can't. I just don't picture. Like I said, a motivated team coming back from a 27-3 game and coming back and winning that game. It's incredible that.
But you would agree with me, though, honestly, that game had more to do with what the Chargers weren't, because that was all horrible coaching. They didn't run the ball at all. Like, the Chargers literally handed that game to them. Like, the Jaguars, give them credit for fighting. They didn't give up. But the Chargers are the ones that literally handed that game to them. They didn't run the ball. Justin Herbert was terrible in the second half.
But, I mean, credit to the Jags offense. I mean, they had to go out there.
I'm just saying, when you get 4 turnovers in the first quarter, you should not lose a game like that. That is on the Chargers.
That's on the Chargers offense to not go at least get a single touchdown.
That's
in that
my
half.
point.
But I mean,
but then you got to give credit to
the
the Jaguars defense for actually stopping the Chargers from doing
Sure, again,
I'm just saying that Jags offense is good.
It is good, but it's not great, and that is why I don't believe they can come in here and trade blow for blow with the Chiefs.
But, I mean,
the Chiefs have a better defense than people give them credit for.
No, I get that, but we don't blow teams out really.
But they already did against this Jaguars team. And to your point about Evan Ingram,
10 points is a blowout.
Guys, considering the fact that a garbage time touchdown.
Yeah, but we didn't blow them out.
There was a 17-point lead with 5 minutes left.
We went to overtime with the Texans. I'm just saying this offensive Jags will be competitive with the Chiefs.
That Texans game has nothing to do with this game.
I'm saying we tend to play with our
because we blew out the 49ers by 21.
Yeah, that's
in San Francisco.
Yeah, okay, but how often do we do those things? It's only against.
How often do they go into overtime with teams like the Texans?
We lost to the Colts too, bro. Like
that was in week 2.
I know, but I'm saying we do have
3, whatever it was.
We don't really blow a lot of teams, even in the playoffs in the history of Mahomes. So we don't really blow teams out. We tend to have to come back for a lot of games.
Dude, I just told you guys that in the divisional round, they win the divisional round games by 12. That's blowing teams out.
Is it?
12
you
point
said
victories?
3 scores. That's what I'm saying. We're going off what you said. 3 scores is a massive blowout.
Because of the fact that I think this Jaguars team is a lot like that Steelers team last year. We all could agree. We all could agree that the Jaguars, unless I'm mistaken,
do you think that Steelers team's coming back in that Chargers game?
No,
absolutely
I'm not talking
not.
That, again, guys, I'm talking about that game in itself. It's kind of like what I was talking about with the Buccaneers and Cowboys about how that's an outlier. Like it kind of exists in its own reality because of the fact that that's not so much what Dak Prescott is. The Bucs were a bad team.
Yeah.
I don't think Dak does that against the Niners. I don't think he does that against the Eagles. I don't think he does that against a lot of other teams. I think that happens against the Bucs. The Jaguars don't survive that game down 27-0 to literally any other team. That's why I said it was more about the Chargers than the Jaguars. You go down 27-0 against any other team, they're not winning that game. That's the point I'm trying to make. So when it comes to this matchup, there is not a single thing the Jaguars can do in this game to make this competitive because it wasn't competitive in Week 10. That was never a close game. That game was never in doubt. They had a 17-point lead despite having 3 more turnovers than the Jaguars, giving up an onside kick, giving up a punt or a fake punt, missing 4 points on special teams. All those factors still won by 10 points.
Okay, and from that point, though, the Jags only lost 1 more game.
That's fine.
This offense has been rolling since that game, bro.
Okay, Trevor, but the rest of the season, after the Chiefs, and that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8 games they played after the Chiefs, they played 2 playoff teams.
Yeah.
So they're not playing the best of the best. My point, though, is the Jags are a good team. They deserve to be in the playoffs. But they're not anywhere near the Chiefs tier and where the NFL is. Like I said, they're going to catch up eventually in the next couple of years.
Argument, yeah.
But there's nothing this team can do to stop the Chiefs' offense. Not a single thing. And Evan Ingram, in their first matchup, had 3 catches for 14 yards.
And the Chiefs have allowed almost, 50-plus points to the Denver Broncos offense. This is what I'm saying. This defense will allow points, bro.
Yeah, but
the Denver Broncos scored 50-plus points on us in both those matchups.
Again, that's a... I hate those Broncos games.
You're talking about the Jags regular season games?
I'm saying I think those Broncos games set a false pretense to what this defense is.
But you're not doing that with the Jags, though. You said they played non-playoff teams. We put the Denver are not a
that's a divisional foe with an elite defense. First of all, second of all, hold on. Second of all, look at the same situation we talked about with the 27-0 lead against the Broncos. Also, just like the Jaguars and Chargers, the turnovers from the quarterback put the defense in bad positions. It's in the same games.
I'm not saying that the defense is going to go out there and stop our offense. I said we're going to put up 40-plus, but I have a problem believing that our defense is going to go stop this offense had an all-time comeback.
In a realistic scenario, I want to hear from both of you real quick. Just give me an answer. How many points do you think realistically the Jaguars can score in this game?
North of 30.
Yeah.
Based on what?
The way their offense is, dude, they were down to almost 30 points to the Chargers, and they came all the way back against the Chargers defense. It's better than ours.
I don't believe that.
They have been better than ours.
I don't believe that at the end of the season the Chargers defense is better than the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs is playing much better defense.
They've allowed fewer points. They have.
I will agree with you that I think Derwin James, Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack, Asante Samuel, like that's a better collection of talent.
They've been a better unit all year.
Would you would agree? Because we talked about the Bengals and how the Bills probably have a better collection of talent on defense, but the Bengals have a better defense. Like, they play better. You know what I'm saying? Like, as the season goes on, you see defenses start to play better, offense start to play better. Like, there are better teams out there than the Jaguars that didn't make the playoffs. But because the fact that the Jags did get hot at the end of the season, because as we remember, there was a point in the season the Jaguars lost 6 straight games. But then they got hot.
Yeah.
The Giants that won
Just
those
like
2
the
Super Bowls
Bengals
against the
last year.
Patriots, those Giants teams are not very good. Their defenses got hot. Joe Flacco's Ravens. Joe Flacco got hot for a 4-game stretch, and they won the Super Bowl. Like, we see these
Joe
things.
Burrow last year. That's what I'm saying.
Exactly.
Like,
That's
why I should worry you a little bit,
Trevor
because
Lawrence
that's
can get hot.
that's what you call a trend, man.
But this Jaguars team ain't nowhere near that Bengals team last year.
I'm not
Come
saying
on.
that. I'm not saying that, but I mean, I know the Chiefs are going to be different in the playoffs. I know that Andy Reid is going to be coaching in a different way. There's going to be some things we haven't seen all year that Andy Reid's going to pull out in this, and it's never been in doubt whether we're going to win or not. I do have respect for the way this team is coached, the discipline. Doug Peterson has won a Super Bowl before with Nick Foles. You know what I mean, with a much lesser offense in that time. So this offense is more talented than that Philly offense.
It's just hard for me to imagine. I'm not trying to just play devil's advocate here. It's hard for me to imagine that a team's going to come in here in the playoffs in Kansas City that's only scored 30 points 4 times this season that are going to come in here and drop 30
So you think
points.
there's a better chance we win by 3 scores than them scoring 30?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm telling you right now. I think I have a strong feeling next week when we're here on the show, I'm going to be talking about how this is what I told you guys all along. I really do believe the Chiefs are going to keep the Jaguars under 27. I don't think that unless it's garbage time, unless they get like a couple like garbage time scores, kind of like the Bucs did when the Chiefs were up 41 to like 20 at one point.
Yeah.
Unless that happens, I could see that being the case. I think that could happen. Zone, and it made it look like it was more of a closer game than it was, and it was never in doubt. I think that's exactly how this is going to go, because as good as the Jags are right now, they're winning a bunch of games in a row. The Chiefs have also won a bunch of games in a row, and they're the far better team, the far superior team, at home, well-rested, ready to go. I just don't see how this game's close. Maybe you guys will be right. I don't see a way unless the Chiefs just play horrible. Like that's the only way I can see it happen.
Or both
the Chiefs
teams
just
play
look bad.
Or both teams play great. Yeah. Like, you gotta, there's that too, man. Like, both these teams are good offenses. Our offense is obviously far superior, and there are tiers to this.
I just think there's some matchups that teams just can't be great in. You know what I mean? Like, I just think the Jaguars aren't good enough to be great against the Chiefs. Does that make sense? Like, they could be great in portions against the Chargers, but they weren't great against the Chargers. They were great for like a quarter and a half.
Do you need to be great though to put 30 on our defense? No.
Yes.
Really?
And in meaningful points, yeah, I do. Think about it.
What did the Texans
hold on. They didn't score. The point I'm trying to make is, look at, okay, hold on. The Bengals scored 27 in overtime against the Chiefs. The Bills scored 24. Those are the 2 best teams the Chiefs have. The Niners scored 23. This is a better defense than people are giving them credit. Yeah, so I don't think this Jaguars team is going to come into Arrowhead and drop 30.
But we tend to allow teams that shouldn't be putting up points against us.
Right. That's exactly my point. So this is a game where the Chiefs are locked in. It's the playoffs.
Yeah.
They're facing a team they're clearly better than. They faced Josh Allen and Joe Burrow earlier in the year, and they didn't let those guys score over 30.
I am not worried about our offense. Our offensive crew has been here in this playoff, is very experienced for the most part outside of Kadarius Toney. Guys like this have been in the playoffs. Juju's been in the playoffs. Guys have been in the playoffs. Patrick Mahomes is going to do what he does. The defense, though, on the other hand, there's a lot of inexperience, a lot of young guys that have not been in these big of spots. That's my only concern. So I'm not worried about us winning this game. Pat's gonna go out winning this game.
But I can't.
I mean, we're splitting hairs here for sure. I think we all agree they're going to win.
I just can't see 3-score victory by the Chiefs.
You guys don't think the Chiefs are going to cover the 9?
I would bet us not to, because that's been making people money all year, bro. If we're being honest.
Yep.
That's been making people. I literally think the score is going to be. I think the Chiefs are going to push for 40. I'll say like 38, 39 points to 30.
Am I off saying this though? That I just look at the Chiefs, like postseason Chiefs, as a different team, because we remember all the struggles they had all throughout last season, and as soon as the playoffs hit, scored 42 on the Steelers, scored 42 against the Bills.
That Steelers team,
you know what I mean?
That Steelers team was like the Bucs team from this year. That Steelers team had no business. Remember, like Nick Wright said, that was basically it's better than a bye. That's how bad that team was.
Didn't they have the same record though as the Jags?
Yeah, but that team was they had like the easiest schedule that year. Remember that team was they had like started like 7. Didn't they start like 7-0?
Ravens twice.
Didn't they start 7-0 that year? And then they
No,
lost.
that was 11. No, that was the year before.
Okay,
When Baker Mayfield beat the shit out of him.
Dude,
yeah.
that was the corpse of Big Ben. That team was awful.
What I'm saying though is I think the game's going to go in that similar way because of how different those two teams were, and ironically, that season,
This Jags
the
team is nothing
Steelers,
like that
the
Steelers
Chiefs beat
team,
the
dude.
shit out of the Steelers. That's
More
hold on.
upset by far.
You see the similarities though, because that season also last year the Chiefs beat the shit out of the Steelers. And then you have Travis Kelce, remember he had COVID.
Yeah.
Tyreek Hill didn't play almost at all that game. They still put up 35 on that team. Then they go in there and beat the shit out of them against the playoffs.
Again, I'm not worried about our offense.
But then remember who
So
scored.
you're worried about the defense, really?
But then remember
How could you not be?
Oh, man.
who scored first in that game? I know we beat the brakes at the fucking Steelers, but who scored first?
I mean, the Steelers did, but that didn't matter. I don't see
I know, but I'm saying
Evan Ingram,
they can score.
The Evan Ingram matchup and the Travis Etienne possibility of
Etienne,
having a
yeah.
big game is what worries me.
The
I
Chiefs
think
shut
then
down
Trevor Lawrence.
The Chiefs shut them both
sure,
down.
but dude, doing that twice.
So shouldn't the Chiefs defense get the benefit of the doubt in this matchup? Because they've already shut those guys down.
Sure, but what I'm saying is the Jags since that point have been a far better team. They've
So
done
are the Chiefs, though.
and they overcame the most craziest odds to come back and beat that Chargers defense. Who's been better than our defense this year, bro? And they came back all the way from almost 30 points down, 27 points. That is very impressive.
I'm just saying though, before the Chiefs played the Jags, they had 2 losses. After the Jags, they had 1.
Yeah.
So and I'm just saying, I think the Chiefs are a better team now than they were before when they played the Jags. I think the Jags are a better team now than they were when they played the Chiefs.
100%.
But it's not going to matter when the Chiefs have elevated their game, and now this is where they I think we all agree that Chiefs have been waiting for the postseason for like a month and a half.
Yeah. And
they've just been like, let's get to the postseason.
And if the Jags had any other coach than Doug Peterson, I'd be like, nah. Doug Peterson knows Andy Reid's tendencies, and Andy Reid knows Doug Peterson's tendencies. This is going to be Doug Peterson is one of the best coaches in this league, man. He's won a ring not too long ago, and I respect his capabilities and his creativity, his risk taking. He's a guy that's going to go for it on fourth. He's going to be creative. That play to Travis Etienne when they went for it on fourth to pretty much put the game away. That was a huge possession. Plays like that, man. He's a guy that knows when to make these certain plays. And he's very much Reid-like, so I think this is going to be a very tit-for-tat kind of game, and I expect it to be close and competitive, man.
I have the Chiefs. I'm hammering the -9. I'm hammering the 53 over. Trevor and Eddie, you guys are obviously hammering the 53 over.
I like the over, but I even think the spread is right where it needs to be.
So you're saying Jags +9.
Yeah,
Eddie, you're
it's
saying
right
Jags
where it needs to be,
+9.
yeah.
Okay. That's where I see it. That's how I see it with this matchup. I'm assuming you guys have some key players to this one. For me, I'm going to keep it simple. I think Travis Kelce's going to be the key to this one. I think that they've been waiting to unleash Travis Kelce again in the postseason. This is the worst defense against tight ends, as I alluded earlier.
Yeah.
I think there's no excuse why Travis Kelce doesn't have 8 to 10 receptions for over 100 yards and a touchdown in this one. I think he's going to play well. I will make an additional prediction. I think Jerick McKinnon has another receiving touchdown. I think it's going to happen. I think Patrick's going to throw 4 touchdowns in this game, and one's going to go to Jerick McKinnon on a little dump bubble screen, something like that, and it's going to get sexy again, and that's how we're going to see this. Guys, my key player, I know it's because he's a superstar player, but I'm going to say it because I'm making a prediction. Chris Jones is going to get his first postseason sack this week. Yeah. It's going to happen this way. He's going to get Brandon Scherf on a nice little swim move. He's going to get Trevor Lawrence, and he's going to get his first one in 13 postseason games. It's going to happen. So those are my key players.
Yeah, Travis Kelce should absolutely eat. I'm going to let you have that one. I'm just going to go Kadarius Toney, who's my secondary option here. I think Kadarius Toney is a nightmare matchup for that secondary, bro. His shiftiness and the way he hit a coming out party against them last game.
Yep.
And I think he's going to supersede that. I think he has the potential to score 2 or 3 touchdowns in this game. I think when we get in the red zone, I think he's been the guy we've been getting crafty with, right? The in route plays, the jet sweeps, the little dump, the quick strike, to the line of scrimmage to him. That ring around the rosy play was to him. These plays, Andy Reid's been having a field day drawing up these plays.
He's becoming a key figure.
This is what I'm saying. So I think there's a great chance he can have a massive day.
Yep.
So he's my guy. And then defensively, I mean, Chris Jones should be just the honorary guy. I think he's due for a finally get that sack out of that monkey off his back with the sack number here. Finally get a couple postseason sacks. I think it's a good chance to get a couple because Trevor Lawrence takes a lot of sacks. But my guy, I'm going to go with is Carlos Dunlap, a guy who has been extremely good. He led the team in batted balls at the line of scrimmage. And what did I just say about Trevor Lawrence having a problem with that? As tall as he is and as big as he is, and as smart of a player as he is, he throws a low ball over the line of scrimmage a lot. Even on dump offs, even like when he's trying to throw a ball on a rope over the middle, he throws it like right over the helmets of these players. And if he's going to start trying to throw these balls low to the flat, Carlos Dunlap is going to bat a lot of balls. And those to me are just as good as sacks. You're stopping the play, the dead ball immediately. The play's over. That's a down. That's another loss on down. So I think those are going to become a massive factor in this defense. And I think Carlos Dunlap has been so good at batting those balls with his height, and George Karlaftis as well. But I think Carlos Dunlap has a good chance of getting a sack and a few batted balls here. So I'm going with Dunlap.
That's funny. You took both my players, you son of a bitch. So I'm gonna go Kadarius Toney on this one. Like I said on my prediction, talking about the Chiefs winning this game, I think Kadarius Toney is gonna have a big game. This has Kadarius Toney written all over it. We saw definitely in the regular season with the little hop in touchdown on the right side of the field. It was fantastic. So I do think that Andy Reid is preparing those plays specific to each player. We see it every time in the playoffs, and I think Andy Reid loves Kadarius Toney and what he can do, how shifty he is. So we're gonna see a lot of those slants or whatever, those
jet sweeps.
Yeah. With Kadarius Toney, obviously he has speed, the shiftiness, so he could go out there and ball out, get a couple scores in there. Get up to 100 yards receiving. This is a game where he can ball out, and you know that we're not expecting this from him, but that's what we want him to be as a Chiefs player. You know, so I really hope he balls out this weekend. Defensive side, I'm gonna go with Chris Jones in this one. It's his moment to shine, you know what I mean? Frank Clark, especially with Frank Clark being a little banged up, with was it thigh that he was dealing with, or what was it?
I think he's good now.
Yeah, he said he's been working back in the
I know he's been limited all week, but with Frank Clark dealing with some kind of issue, I think this is where Chris Jones has to go in there and step up and be that leader, be that defensive line leader. He's been balling all season. And what a way!
15.5 sacks.
Yeah, what a way to be to cap off that season with a great playoff game. Get his first sack in, like Lamb says, 13 games. So I'm expecting a lot from Chris Jones, especially in the run game. I think he's going to be crucial in that, stopping that run, trying to get ETN, controlled, and the Chiefs kind of control the game throughout. So. Yeah, I'm going to go Chris Jones.
Nice.
I like it. That's where we're going to stay. I guess we can give our score predictions tomorrow before the game starts. I don't have mine solidified yet, but I am very confident in what I'm standing by. I think the Chiefs are going to win this game very, very convincingly. I'm going to say 20 plus points. I think they win this game by 20 plus points.
I would love that.
Yeah, I don't think this game's going to ever be in doubt, just like the first time. And in fact, I'm going to take it a step further. I think it's going to be much more convincing than the first one, because I think the Chiefs are going to be much sharper than they were in that first one. The Chiefs were not sharp. The Chiefs had their C plus B minus game in that one, and they walked all over the Jaguars. They walked all over that. Their defense shut Trevor Lawrence down. Their defense shut down the rushing game. I don't see him being any different. I think the Chiefs are going to come out there and show everybody they're ready for the AFC Championship. They're not overlooking the Jaguars, but they got bigger things to worry about outside of the Jaguars, and they're going to move on from the Jaguars very convincingly.
And then we have
Go ahead.
Clear the air with E. He has his key players for this game as Mike Dana on defense and Noah Gray on offense.
Nice little sleepers. Nice.
Yeah.
I like it. I like little sleeper picks like that.
Yep, those are good. Those are always
and Noah
good.
Gray
Man.
has been getting some more action as the weeks have gone on.
Yeah,
so
like he's become like a legitimate wide receiver 4. You know what I mean? Like he's been treated like a wide receiver 4. It's been pretty cool. And honestly, I'd much rather him get those catches than Justin Watson.
Yeah, I mean we gotta start building them, especially with Travis Kelce getting up there in edge. We definitely think we gotta start molding the new tight end.
All this means is Michael Burton's going to score 3 times this game.
Yeah.
Andy Reid is going to pull some shit. You know that's going to happen, dude. Andy Reid is going to pull some shit or have a defensive lineman come in and run a ball in or something. Andy Reid always pulls out some plays like that. We saw him attempting it against the Raiders, trolling them with Colin Saunders out there.
Well,
Man,
I was just going to ask that.
I wanted that touchdown so bad. He's going to try something.
Yeah.
If we're up by like double digits, Andy Reid's going to flex, bro.
Yeah, it's going to be – I think there's going to be some – I think, like I said, you had Travis Kelce throw a touchdown against the Steelers, I think you're going to see something where they line up like Kadarius Toney at quarterback, and he tries to throw a ball to somebody.
Wildcat.
Something fun's going to happen in the red zone, because I think the Chiefs are going to be up like 35-13 at one point of this game.
Yeah.
That's where I'm leaving it. Trevor and Eddie think this is going to be a little bit closer.
I have my score. I think we're going to win 40-33. I think we win by 7.
Man, I'd like to know who scores those touchdowns for the Jaguars in this one. That's going to be interesting. 33. That's a lot of scoring.
Go watch the Chargers game. A lot of guys are scoring.
And I'm going 38-33 on mine.
38. Wow, you both got 33 points. All right, well, that's where we're gonna leave that matchup. Eddie, I know you got at least a couple questions in the Eddie Hour, as he does every single week. Let's get to these, man, because I know the people are dying to hear what you got to ask in the Eddie Hour. What's in the Eddie Hour this week?
Fuck, let's go UFC real quick. Let's go UFC. I only got 2 fights. I don't know if you guys want to talk about more fights in the card, but this is the 2 biggest fights, obviously, of the night with the co-main events.
Yeah.
We'll start with the first one. Davison Figueiredo versus Brandon Moreno. And this is number 4.
Number 4. If I'm not mistaken, right now it's 2-1 Figueiredo, right? Is that correct? Yeah. And we talked about the just complete bullshit decision they gave Figueiredo in getting the belt from Moreno a couple years ago. Yep. To this day, that still chaps my ass, man. I think that Moreno was robbed. I know he's the interim champion right now because of the other technicality that took place a few months ago. Look, as much as I think these guys are evenly matched, I have to side with Brandon Moreno in this matchup. Because of the fact that I just think that when it comes to these guys, I think time is obviously on Brandon Moreno's side, but I also think the fact that he's becoming a sharper fighter as each and every fight takes place. Like, you're seeing the progression. Like, the first fight, Figueiredo, you could tell he knew how to figure out Moreno quick. Like, he was getting it, he was dropping him, knocking him on the mat, and then you saw the sharpness continue with Moreno, and Moreno would win, and then he got robbed, and then it just one thing after another. But it was never because of Moreno's weaknesses after that first fight. It was always because of the fact that it was either just Figueiredo had a good hit, or he just got robbed. Straight up robbed. I to this day I'll die on that. I don't give a fuck what anybody tells me. That knows the UFC better than I do. You don't lose a belt that way.
Yeah.
That fight was too even for you to give that belt up. That's bullshit.
It was a great fight, but he don't
great
lose.
fight.
Yeah.
But Moreno did not lose that fight, and I'll die on that hill gladly. Moreno's going to win this fight by decision, and I think it's going to be a convincing decision. I'm not going to say unanimous decision. These guys are too tactical. They're too skilled. They know each other too well for any of them to knock each other out or to get submitted. This is going to be a close fight again. It's going to be another classic because both of them are still very much at the peak of their powers, but I'm giving Moreno the edge. I think he's going to land more significant strikes. I think he's going to win the octagon control, and I think he's going to have one more takedown than Figueiredo does. I think there'll be some boring portions in this fight where they just kind of clinch in and it's just kind of against the fence. Yeah, they're feeling each other out. But I think Brandon Moreno's going to put on a show, and I think he's going to put some hits on Figueiredo. I think he's going to win this fight by decision.
I'm going against my gut on this one. My gut's telling me to take Figueiredo. Both these guys are so equally matched. Both these guys are so similar fighters, really. They're good strikers. They prefer to fight standing up, most of them. But granted, the ground game does go to Figueiredo. He's the better wrestler in my mind. And I think he's the stronger fighter, but if it's going to be more of a standing match, I'm putting my money on Moreno. I think he's the better striker. But I'm going to go with my heart over my gut in this one. I'm going Moreno. I like him in this match. He is the favorite, but not by much. He's only a minus 125, and it's plus 105 for Figueiredo. So this is about as equal as you get. This is a pick'em fight, obviously for good reasons. This is such an equal matchup. Both these guys, know each other so well. Very similar size guys, similar reach. Everything is similar. Their records are very similar. Everything about these guys is almost damn near identical. They both tend to have a little bit different fighting styles as it is. I mean, I know Figueiredo is going to want to try to take Moreno down a little bit more than Moreno would probably want to take Figueiredo down. But I think significant strikes, I think strikes in general, the accumulation of strikes in general are going to be in the favor of Moreno. I think he's going to be the aggressor.
I think he's a longer fighter too, isn't he?
Maybe.
He has longer arms?
Maybe. I don't think it's by much. I think they're both very similar in stature. They're both Figueiredo's 5'5",
5'7" for Brandon Moreno. Yep. Moreno has 2 inch
reach difference. That is actually a pretty big deal. 2 inches can be a big deal, especially for the guy who prefers to be the striker, having that little bit of extra length there. So I mean, both these guys are great fighters, man. Both these guys are proven champs. Regardless of how you feel about that last fight, I do think both those guys fought well enough to win. I just don't think someone should be stripped of their belt the way that
Sure.
was. I think both those guys fought well enough to win. I believe that. But I think Moreno was slightly the better fighter in that, and you don't lose a belt that way. You have to beat the champ straight up. I just don't think he did enough to do that, and I felt that was bullshit, and I think Moreno feels that as well. And Moreno is going to go, and I think he's going to regain that title, and it's going to be a great fight once again. That's what these guys do. So I'm picking Moreno on that one.
I mean, this card is in Brazil too, so it's
it's home field. Yeah, I get it.
And then the other fight I want to talk about is Glover Teixeira versus Jamal Hill, the other championship bout.
Yep. So Glover Teixeira is a legend. He's 33-8. He's been a champion, I think, multiple times in the UFC, and he put on a hell of a show in his last fight. And barely lost. I mean, it was very end of the fight, if I'm not mistaken, and I think it went right to the wire. Jamal Hill is a guy that I am rooting for so much in the UFC in general because he recently did an interview talking about what this fight meant to him. And he had such a powerful statement. I don't even want to try to attempt it, but loosely what he did say was, you know, I've waited my whole life and I've fought my whole life to get this opportunity, and I don't know what I am as far as being a champion or not a champion, but this fight's going to let me know what I am, if I'm good enough or not. And that really moved me, and that really motivated me because that tells me this man really does take this fight as seriously as one could take it. And you should, because to that credit, Glover Teixeira is about as a worthy of opponent as you can get. The problem, though, is Glover Teixeira is 43 years old. And we saw, and I know this is a weird comparison, but I'm just going with the age and difference in athleticism. I remember about 12, 13 years ago, Brock Lesnar fought Randy Couture, who at that time was the champion at 45 years old. And Randy Couture was a proven champion. He's one of the greatest UFC fighters of all time. He was called Captain America, yada, yada, yada. Brock Lesnar was 31 years old and beat the shit out of Randy Couture. Beat the shit out of him. I mean, it wasn't even a fight. He just dominated him. Jamal Hill is not only the bigger fighter, both legs, arms, height.
3 inch reach advantage.
Yeah, I think he's like 4 or 5 pounds lighter, but during the fight, it's not going to matter because they're both going to be way heavier. And he's 12 years younger, and he's got so much motivation in this fight. I think he's going to knock out Glover Teixeira in the first round.
I like it.
I do. He's 11-1 in his career. I think he's going to come in here and he's going to just give Glover everything he's got. And no offense to Glover, but I think it's time he goes to pasture, and I think Jamal Hill's the worthy opponent to do it. I think he's going to retire him. I think you're going to see the gloves fall on the mat afterwards, and Glover's going to announce his retirement, and Jamal Hill's going to become the champ, man. I really think this is the perfect story and the perfect passing of the torch at the heavyweight division. Jamal Hill by knockout, first round.
Teixeira is such a smart fighter, and the smart thing to do against Hill in this matchup is try to get him down, because he's not going to want to go blow for blow with Jamal Hill. Jamal Hill is a guy that will knock him out, and at that age, I know he's got that old man strength. He can still strike with the brick hands he's got too. But he would want this. Teixeira would want this game to get on the ground, and this game is on the ground. And if he's maintaining, the time under, in position. He's a great submitter too, a great submissive fighter. There's a chance. If Teixeira wants a chance in this fight, he's gonna have to win on the ground. He's gonna have to dominate him on the ground. He's gonna have to dominate position and win that way. If this fight's going, toe for toe, blow for blow, significant strike for significant strike, it's gonna go in the favor of Jamal Hill. He's the younger buck. He's way quicker with his hands. He's a much better striker at this point in their careers. I do like a knockout though. I don't know if it's the first round, but I do like a knockout because it is in the main event. So there's gonna be 5 rounds of this shit. I don't think they make it out of 5. I don't think this is going the distance. I do think Jamal Hill finds a way to put Teixeira away. This is his chance to kind of, like he said, this is his moment. And he talks about this is life and death for him. This is something he wants to put his life on the line for. This is what it's all about. This is his chance to go and put himself on that pedestal of the best fighters in the octagon. So I like Jamal Hill. I think he's got a lot more to fight for in this fight. Teixeira is an old man at this point. He's lived, man. He's had a hell of a career. Beat a lot of good fighters in his career. And I just think this is the time. I know another Brazilian fighter in Brazil, but I think this is Jamal Hill's time, and this is a great spot for him to go win by knockout, and I like a knockout as well, but maybe the third round.
What do you take away from John Harbaugh saying that he's 200% sure that Lamar Jackson is pretty much returning for next season? And if you don't agree with it, what makes you think he won't come back?
First of all, Eddie, let me just say thank you for asking this question. Business is a funny thing, man. It's a funny thing because we all know that when it's in the public eye, all that matters is perception. And the Ravens know that. This is a very classy and smart and diligent organization. And they know what they're doing in this situation. And you know what? I blame Lamar Jackson a little bit in this regard because he's given them the passage to do so. You know why? Because Lamar doesn't have representation. He's put himself on an island, and that's the only part I'll blame Lamar on. Where I'll defend Lamar on vehemently is the fact that this man has earned every dime he's asking for. If we remember the Ravens before Lamar Jackson, after they won the Super Bowl in 2012, they missed the playoffs 3 times. 3 times with Joe Flacco, the guy that everyone was trying to put elite status on. They were going nowhere fast. Lamar Jackson comes around, they become one of the most prominent teams in the entire NFL. Now, I talk about how he doesn't have postseason success, and that is all valid. But he gave them a relevance and an athletic ability and an overall talent at quarterback they have never had in the history of their franchise. Ever. He deserves every penny he's asking for. And the Ravens don't want to give that to him. Plain and simple. How do I know that? Because they could have given it to him this offseason, and they didn't do it. They could have given it to him during the season, and they didn't do that. And Lamar Jackson's like, okay, well, I'm not playing. And also, I have an injury. He has a PCL injury. He's legitimately hurt. And the weird part about all of this is the Ravens could have controlled this part and said, our quarterback's injured. He's not playing. Instead, they stayed ghosted. They did not talk about it. They didn't announce anything to the point that Lamar Jackson had to go out there and tell people himself. That has never happened before in my memory, where a superstar quarterback had to come out and let everybody know what his health condition is, and the team didn't want to talk on it. Now, when it comes to the contract disputes or the contract problems, what I find funny about all this is people are actually buying this shit. People are actually believing in what the Ravens are saying about, we're 100%, 200% sure he'll take this. Do we all not see what they're doing? They're clearly using this as, well, we wanted Lamar so bad. We want him because what we all know is that he wants out now. He wants to go and explore other options, a team that's actually going to value him and pay him what he feels he's worth.
Well, they're talking about letting him pick the OC now, right?
Yeah, exactly. Now they're making it look all fluffy and beautiful. We love Lamar. He wants to be here too. Because when he demands a trade, and that is inevitable, the fans will turn on him, not on the franchise. Because they know how big of a blow this is going to be for their success.
Safe face.
And for their marketability. Lamar is their franchise. They lose him, they're going down the drain at least competitively for another year or two. And the market, people aren't going to be crowding into that M&T Stadium for him without him. He's the reason people are going. He's the reason they've been winning regular season games the way they have. So this is all optics. This is all PR stunts. The Ravens are trying to sell people on bill of goods, and it's working because people are buying it. But I see right through it. Hopefully you guys do too, because that's all this is. I remember when the Royals did this with Eric Hosmer. Oh, well, we were going to offer him over $100 million. The fuck you were. You said that because you didn't want to piss off Royals fans when you guys inevitably traded him. Like, give me a break. That was never going to happen. And it's never going to happen with the Ravens. He's played his last down with them. He's done. He's gone. And we all know it.
I think there's a chance he's a Raven next season. I don't think it's the most likely situation. I do think he deserves better, and I think... Listen, Lamar is not exempt of criticism either. I mean, he's had it. This is the guy that's had his mom as his agent, and you really want me to believe that the Ravens are giving trust in Lamar to help pick the OC? I have a hard time believing that. I do think there's a chance he is a Raven. I think that they can... Because teams, I mean... bridges have been burnt. I see that, but things can also be mended. Things can come at the right situation. Because I mean, he is in a good spot still. That's still one of the top defenses in the league. They just signed Roquan Smith to a big deal. That defense is tops in the league, obviously, and they've been competitive even with Bengals. I know that they lost the division barely to the Bengals still, without Lamar being in there for the last few weeks of the year.
It's about money, though.
For sure. And the Ravens have money.
They don't want to pay him.
For sure. And if they can't come to an agreement, that's when the departure and him demanding a trade will happen. But if they can find a way to fix it and find a way to do that, there is still that possibility. If I'm him, I probably wouldn't do that. But putting myself in the mind of Lamar is a difficult thing to do, because he has some head scratching decisions. I felt like they had a good contract in place for him before, and he didn't take it, and he trusted the judgment of his mother/agent, and that just seems like a boneheaded thing to me. No offense to his mother, but she's not an agent. She didn't go to school for this. She didn't go to any training for this. This is a strange scenario that's going on in Baltimore right now. And I know people that are Baltimore fans, and they seem pretty confident that he's coming back with all these reports, quote unquote. And it does feel like fluff. It does feel like they're fluffing the pillow to embrace the fan base for impact. That's why I'm saying it's more likely to me that he won't be a Raven. But I do think there's a chance. I mean, we've seen crazier things happen where teams figure things out. But yeah, I don't know. There's other. He's gonna have all the options in the world. Teams are gonna line up to try to trade for him. Teams are gonna line up to try to, like teams like the Dolphins, if they don't go the Tom Brady route or something like that, and Tua might not be able to make it, through his career without excessive injuries. Lamar would be an incredible fit there. There's so many other options. We put our list of teams out that we could think Lamar would play. There's a lot of options that he can go somewhere and thrive. If the Giants wanted to upgrade a quarterback, that's another great spot, a big market. A lot of scenarios that can happen, but the overconfidence of Harbaugh and the organization is a little strange now. The timing now, after he said what he was saying and talking about, you don't not valuing a good thing, you nurture it, blah blah blah. That little weak statement he came out with, it was a little lame. But yeah, I don't know. This is a strange situation, and I think it is more likely, if I'm betting on it, it's more likely he's elsewhere starting next season than being at Baltimore Raven. But I do think there is a scenario where they can mend the fence and fix this situation and find a way to pay him and possibly bring in a couple more weapons for him, because they need to upgrade weapons offensively. If they can figure out a way to do that, and he somehow helps pick the OC, which I think is a terrible decision. Yeah, it's
the only way. And we can mark this tape. The only way Lamar Jackson is back in a Baltimore Ravens uniform next season is if they give him the Deshaun Watson contract. That is the only way that's happening.
And that's what he's been demanding. I mean, he's demanding that kind of money.
And the Ravens are not budging.
I wouldn't pay him that.
They're not budging. I'm not saying I would either.
I love Lamar, but I'm not.
But
paying
there will
him
be
money.
there will be teams that will come close.
Yeah, he's got to win more, and he's got to be healthier more.
And there are desperate teams out there. Think about it.
Yeah.
Jets, Falcons, even the Dolphins.
I think the Giants
would
can
all
make a
be
trade
desperate
too.
enough to trade whatever they need to trade away and pay him whatever they need to pay him, because I think the Jets with Lamar Jackson,
Tampa Bay,
could be a contender. Tampa Bay, the problem with them is
money.
they have horrific cap structure.
Sure.
The Raiders, they're not a contender.
They're broke too, though.
I'm just going to put this out here. I gotta put it into it.
Yeah.
Tom Brady's not going to the Raiders.
Yeah,
that is a terrible decision. Lamar Jackson is not going. And here's the other thing: the Ravens have to trade him. So why in the world would they try to put him in the AFC? I think the Falcons are the number one team, unless the Jets or the Dolphins. The Raiders don't even have the draft capital. Like, unless the Jets want to trade away a couple first-round picks, or the Dolphins want to trade a couple first-round picks.
I don't think Lamar would want to see the Chiefs twice a year either.
That's what I'm saying. I don't see him going to the AFC
Brady.
West.
Yeah.
I honestly don't think he's going to be in the AFC. I think he's going to probably go to the Falcons or the Panthers or a team like that have the cap structure and have the draft capital.
Yeah.
And the Ravens can get him out of the AFC.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, unless he gets that contract he's demanding, and the Browns fucked it all up by giving Deshaun that fucking stupid-ass contract.
Yeah.
Because that happened, Lamar's like, okay, this sack of shit over here just got this massive contract for being out of the game for a year and a half. I'm out here winning MVPs.
And you think he's probably going to wait till he sees what Josh Allen gets and what
Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert,
because they're all going to have to get paid around the same time. If those guys reset the market even further, Lamar's like, bruh.
Yeah, he's like, I have an MVP. None of these guys do.
Yep.
I've put up historic numbers. Like,
Yep.
Well, I win 77% of my games. Like, yeah, pay me. And he's going to get paid.
Yep.
I think the Jets, like I said, if he is in the AFC, Jets, Dolphins come to mind automatically. And I think on the NFC side, Falcons and Panthers. That's winnable division, good young nucleuses.
I can see him in an Atlanta jersey for sure.
Yes.
Last question for you guys: is Tom Brady retiring?
No, 100%
Hell
no.
no.
I know that this is going to be the conversation for the next, 17 weeks. I know. But that's not going to be the case. He's going to play somewhere else. It's just a matter of where. Now, problem is that Tom Brady may not have the market that we once thought he could have a year ago when he tried to retire and then get out of the whole Buccaneers situation. The problem is now it's an even more limited market for him because the teams he could go to may not be able to win. Like, I know that Tom Brady only wants to play to win.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is, unless he goes to Miami, unless he goes to the Jets, I mean, and maybe him and Sean Payton are talking in the back channels. Maybe they're like, hey, bro, let's go to the Panthers. Let's go win the shit out of that easy division. Let's go get DJ Moore and that Brian Burns defense, and let's go win this division. Let's go get 11 wins. I think they would. I think they'd win that division. You get Sean Payton and Tom Brady on that team. Outside of that, man, even if he goes to the Jets, I mean, they could win that division, but that's not a guarantee. That's not a walk in the park, and it's the AFC. You're talking about a loaded conference. He's got a limited base, but I do not anticipate he's going to retire. I think he wants to go out in a better, or convince himself that he can go out in better terms than what he did with the Buccaneers this year and the year before. So no, I don't see it any way that he retires.
No, I'm right there with you. I mean, that goodbye was a goodbye to the Buccaneers.
Yes.
That wasn't a goodbye to the league. Tom Brady, I think the dude's going to try to play till he's 50. I do. I think he could definitely play a few more years.
Well, especially now that his personal life's changed.
Yeah.
That is a thing.
He's a
It is
bachelor
thing.
now, man.
Yeah, he doesn't have to feel that guilt of...
It's probably gave him a little extra boost in his life.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I mean, I know it's coming from a dark origin, but I definitely think that can add a little bit of youth to a man, in this kind of situation. This is kind of this is like he's fully leaned into football even more now because he doesn't even have, what he had before in this personal life. Now that he's out of that entirely, and she's obviously moved on, you know what I mean? So this is his new relationship even further than what it's been through his career. So in no way I think Tom Brady he's 100% playing football somewhere next year.
All right, that is the Eddie Hour. We appreciate it every week, man. This is one of my favorite segments we do. But we have one more order of business to get to, guys. What is it called? Hold this L. Each and every episode, we finish off each and every episode with a series of L's in the world of sports. Whether those L's in the world of sports are friendly or not so friendly L's in the world of sports, I promise you, whoever is holding those L's in the world of sports deserve those L's in the world of sports. Mr. Eddie Ortiz, Mr. Yo, who's holding the L for you this week, and why is it F1?
Not F1. I'm gonna give it to Juventus.
Woo!
Juventus down in Italy in the Serie A. They were just handed a 15-point deduction in the league, so they'll be losing 15 points. They will drop to 10th in the league right now with the point deductions, and this is due to a financial investigation. So about a few months ago, a financial investigation began on Juventus because their accounting team or whatever found some stuff going on, and they wanted to investigate further, and they went into deeper waters, and the president of Juventus resigned. A lot of head people started resigning. So what was happening, if I read this correctly, I could be wrong, but if I read the article correctly, is they were putting the wrong numbers into their into their gains. So it showed that they were breaking even. So the bosses and the heads were taking in all that extra cash flow. So that's what they're. I think that's what this whole situation was. So because of that, and that should be obviously being illegal and all that shit. They were handed a 50-point loss, and the crazy thing, this is not the first time they've gotten point deductions in the Serie A, because a few years ago, I would say about a decade ago, they got relegated to the second division because of some other issues that they had going on. So this is nothing new to Juventus. Yeah, man. You gotta hire the better people to handle your finances and make sure they don't get you relegated again. Because had this been at the end of the season, they could have given you more points. I don't know. Might be a little light of a punishment. But man, Juventus, you like to put yourself in these kinds of situations. I don't know why. So for that reason, you're gonna have to
hold this L. Trevor Twiddle, who's holding the L for you this week?
All right, so everyone's favorite NFL analyst, Tony Dungy, might need to take a little break from Twitter.
Yeah.
This is semi-sports related, and it's only really sports related because it's the name Tony Dungy. I'm all for a fun, conspiracy theory and things like that when it comes to like politics or whatever. Those are always fun to like observe and from afar or dive into and like just entertain at times. But sometimes some people at a certain age may not be the best idea to just to chill and hang out on Twitter and just say everything that crawls up the old noggin, especially when you're Tony Dungy, who's obviously, if anyone pays attention to his weekly picks on the old boob tube, his record's not great. Neither is his presence on Twitter. And let me just kind of delve into this and explain to you why. I'm just going to read this article here. It says, the Super Bowl winning NFL head coach, who is now an analyst and color commentator for NBC, recently took to Twitter and promoted a false conspiracy theory. In response to the Daily Wire, it was a Daily Wire article about something about the boys and girls restrooms at schools. Possibly what they're trying to do with this one school is trying to make a certain way. That doesn't really matter. Nonetheless, he responds to that article from the Daily Wire saying, "Oh, that's nothing. Some school districts are putting litter boxes in the school bathrooms for the students who identify as cats. Very important to address every student's needs." Obviously, he was saying that in tongue-in-cheek, while talking about addressing all the students' needs, very sarcastic and passive-aggressive. Obviously, that's a false thing. That's a proven false thing that people on 4chan and all these other outlets that people just like to just throw random things out there that are just absolutely asinine and insane. So, do I need to say much more? I don't think so.
No, please do.
But I mean, if this was in Tony Dungy, this is Tony Dungy, like Hall of Fame head coach, color analyst. This guy's on the TV every weekend for football, and he's on Twitter publicly saying things like that are absolutely completely false. And someone of his ilk, you expect to be smarter than that. Let us down, intellectually. So for that, Tony Dungy, do me a solid favor, sir, and
hold this L. I want to first start off with a W and then an L, and I want to make this one. This W is something I think is really a cool story. We heard the former executive from the 49ers, now Titans GM Rand Carthon, became the new GM, obviously, for the Titans. And his presser, he gave a story about a interaction with him and his wife, who at the time was his girlfriend. And I thought this was really cool, and I just wanted to pay homage to this story.
My wife, we've been together 20 years now, and she brought up the point. It was the spring semester of 2003, and she asked me what did I want to do outside of playing football. And I told her, I was like, one day I want to be a GM of the NFL football team. She later told me she almost stopped dating me because she never met somebody that lived in La La Land. But honey, today that dream comes true, and we're realizing that work that we put in. Thank you for being my rock. Thank you for being the stabilizer of our family, and thank you for being the CEO, CFO, COO, and all things to our family. I'm not here without you, so thank you, and I love you.
I want to give a W because Rand Carthon, I hope that I'm saying his name correctly. His wife doubted the man. She's like, you're making shit up in your head. You're living in la la land. Like, I ain't trying to be with somebody like that. And this man puts both feet down, sticks his chest out, and goes and gets himself the job he dreamed of. That's what I'm talking about, man. You know, like, you guys seen that Twitter account, dude posting dudes W's, whatever it's called. That's what I'm talking about. To see a man that wants to go out and get something done, he goes and gets that job. Being a minority GM, too, is a big thing in the NFL.
Yep.
That's incredible, dude. I'm so happy for that dude. And also, they're probably going to get Trey Lance. So that's going to be a great opportunity as well for Trey Lance to go with the Titans. I think this is awesome. I had to talk about that because I thought that was one of my favorite stories of the week. Another one of my favorite stories of the week is actually which one L is. You guys know I've never bought into Josh McDaniels. I've never believed that he's a head coach in this league. I think he's a fraud. He's been a beneficiary of having Tom Brady and Bill Belichick vouch for him. I'm not saying he doesn't know offense. I think he does. I think he's a good offensive coordinator, but as we all know, some guys are just not meant to take the head coaching role, and Josh McDaniels is 100% that guy, and I think the evidence is there for it to show that he isn't. Well, as we all recall, a few years ago, the Colts wanted Josh McDaniels as their head coach. And we remember that Josh McDaniels accepted the job. And then last minute before his press conference with the team, he pulled out and he didn't take the job. He recanted it and went back to the Patriots. And a lot of theories were out there about, he probably is going to be the coach in waiting because Bill Belichick's getting older. Maybe he'll be that guy. And, then that makes a lot of sense. Maybe Bill told him, hey, you stick around, I'll let you have the head coaching gig. Makes sense. But we never really knew the truth about the story until this week. And the story is stranger than fiction, if this is actually what happened. So, according to Josh McDaniels' wife, she made him pull the plug on the Colts deal because, quote, Jim Irsay, the owner of the Colts, was in their home in Massachusetts, and she was observing his odd behavior that included being in McDaniel's family bathroom for a very long and awkward period, upwards of to an hour.
The fuck?
I'm going to let that sit for a second and let you guys that's really what's, and this is across the internet. This isn't one false report. This is all over.
What you doing in there, Jim?
Josh McDaniels' wife. Let me say that out loud. Josh McDaniels' wife said, nope, you're not taking a head coaching job because that guy was in our bathroom for too long. A literal accusation. There's no proof because I know Jim. In all seriousness, Jim Irsay has had addiction problems.
Yeah.
So we know that the belief automatically is, he must have been doing drugs. Well, you notice that she never made that accusation. She never said she saw any powders or any pills or that he came out all cracked out on anything. Nothing.
Dude was taking a shit.
It was just that the man, Pat McAfee said it on a show too. The man was taking a shit.
Yeah.
Like. That is the reason why you're not going to let your husband take a head coaching job in the NFL, which he has, to his credit, worked for.
The fact that he listened to.
And a team wanted him. You're going to tell your husband no over some bathroom etiquette? That shit is hilarious. And you know what? The best part about it is the Colts dodged a motherfucking bullet because Josh McDaniels would have sunk that damn franchise to the ground. I almost would take Jeff Saturday over his ass because Jeff Saturday beat his ass. And that was the only win Jeff Saturday ever had. So for that, Josh McDaniel, his wife, and their fucking toilet, do me a favor and hold this shit.
Oh, shit.
I said hold this shit, too.
Dude, I think the smoking after dark is way better. I'm just being honest. The quality is just insane.
We need some weed.
We're actually naked. That's why we turned off the camera.
You guys can't see me and Eddie.
I'm sure Eddie been naked the whole time on the other side.
Eddie's been oiling me up, bro.
With my body, not with my hands.
So if you hear slippery sounds,
so the next episode of Baywatch. No, man, this has been a lot of fun, as we do every week, man. And I'm glad that we can finally talk about Chiefs football because it feels like forever ago, man. And yeah, we're finally getting a game. I feel really good about this one. I think we all three feel really good about this one, but I clearly feel a lot better about this one than Trevor and Eddie do. But let us know what you guys think, man. It's not too late. I mean, it is late, but it's not too late because we still have at least 12, 13, 14 hours before the kickoff from this live stream right now. Let us know what you guys think on the YouTube channel, man. What you guys think as far as how this game's going to go, what your score prediction is, key players, anything we've talked about tonight, man. Let us know, because we're definitely looking forward to hearing from you guys. That's why we do this. But in the meantime, for Trevor Twidwell, for Eddie Ortiz, for the great Clay Windler that puts all this together in the back end, I'm Lance Twidwell. Episode 202 of the Spoken Podcast is done, finished, and finito. And until we're here from 1 week's time talking about a Chiefs AFC Championship for the 5th straight time, we out of this bitch.
Hey.